to not like.
Well, no, it's not. It's a symptom of, and forgive my phraseology here, but it's a symptom of weak, whiny, woke wastrels who've decided they're going to revise what masculinity is.
I think it's intergenerational trauma.
Hang on. I'll give you a chance to respond. And they're going to make all men feel terrible. They're going to make men hate themselves. They're going to make everybody else hate men.
Don't beat your wives. Go to therapy. You hate me! What the fuck are we doing?
Talk about gender pronouns.
Yes,
right?
so am I.
There are 74. One of them is astral gender, an affinity with space.
No, where are you getting this information?
Official genders.
Official?
Literally,
Official?
Google it.
The official gender department, guys. Bro, the gender department just dropped new pronouns, bro. You gotta learn up. There's a test on the pronouns, dude. You're gonna have to do... Oh my God. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Apologies for the lack of content recently. I know I've kind of been away or been missing in action, but, just life and other things come up, and, I've been focusing on other things for the time being, but I'm happy to be back, at least for now, making this video. I hope to make these reaction videos more consistently because I know you guys really do enjoy those, so that's kind of my goal moving forward. I also, I'm hoping there's a couple of videos in the pipeline that I should be a part of in Jubilee and elsewhere, so stay on the lookout for those. I'll definitely let you guys know about those, and of course, let me know the content that you guys want to see. I always love getting DMs and messages from you all on Instagram, TikTok, anywhere else, really just letting me know the content that you enjoy and what you want to see more of. So that's always helpful. In terms of kind of news and things to talk about before getting right into the reaction video that you clicked on, like I talked about, I'll actually be flying out to LA a little bit later at the middle of December. So coming up pretty soon to film a video that I think is going to be pretty cool. And I'm looking forward to. In general, I don't know about news and things in general. Just, this episode's going to be interesting for sure. I was actually, I thought I was going to be part of this episode. I interviewed for the casting process. The casting director was really enthusiastic about me being a part of it, and I didn't really hear much in terms of it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not enough of a woke liberal for them, or something like that. But it's kind of all I've got, really. I don't have. Usually, I talk about something that's going on in the news. There's so many crazy things that have happened, obviously, since I've made this last video for you all. I don't think I really need to give you a synopsis of all that. I'm sure you're fully aware of it, but happy holidays to all of you, of course. If you celebrated Thanksgiving, hope you had a nice time with family, eating lots of good food, and going into the holiday season, that you're all staying safe and warm, depending on where you are. I am in the cold Midwest, and it is very, very snowy. We got about, I think, like 10 inches of snow last night, so it is very cold, very brisk, but I hope all of you are having a good time regardless of where you reside. So without further ado, because I don't really have much else, I'm looking forward to watching this video. Some of my friends were in it. I've not watched the video in full. I've seen a few clips, so this is mainly a blind reaction. Piers Morgan is pretty insufferable. He just does whatever he can to stay relevant. He's recently written a whole book. I actually got about halfway through the book before I got the confirmation from the casting director that I would not be a part of this episode, that they had already filled all the seats. So that was an arduous read. I wish I didn't have to read someone complain so much about how they're the victim from a place of privilege. It's pretty insufferable, and it seems like this is a lot of these appearances, and especially Piers's most recent appearance on Surrounded, is just a further effort to stay relevant when he is becoming more irrelevant. So we'll see how much of Piers Morgan's voice I can actually tolerate. With this video is like almost 3 hours, so. Oof, I mean, it's gonna be something, but or is it 2 hours? I'm not sure. I think it's about 2 hours, but with my stopping, it'll probably go a bit longer. So it's kind of all I've got. So yeah, looking forward to reacting to this video, and without further ado, let's get right into it.
Am I carrying? The wokies are around me. Stop talking,
in a positive way is literally participation trophies not being there.
Advantage is so annoying. Look,
have you been on your own show? You interrupted me the whole time, and now you're just getting the same thing.
So me telling you that you are spreading misinformation, that is not fascism. That is just me telling you you're wrong.
With the suit.
But you're not telling me I'm wrong, because I'm right. Hi,
wow.
I'm Piers Morgan, and I'm the host of Piers Morgan Uncensored on YouTube. I'm also the author of a new book, Woke is Dead, and today I'm surrounded by 20 apparently still alive woke liberals.
What does that even mean?
My first surrounded claim is that masculinity has never been toxic.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. All right. It's a wild claim, but all right. Unless he's making a semantic argument. Let's see who goes first.
1 second.
Oh, it's Kyla.
How do you do? I'm Piers.
Nice.
So I guess where I want to kind of start is talking about masculinity. So I view this, do you think that this is like socially emergent, I imagine, to some degree?
Well, I think the truth about the whole toxic debate about masculinity is it's a completely new phenomenon. Before, about 30 years ago, nobody ever used that phrase. It's only really in the last 10 years it's suddenly been amplified and used for absolutely everything. So I thought it might be useful to just start with something that Chris Williamson, you may know him, great guy, and he came on my show recently, and he said that all the following things have been blamed on toxic masculinity in the media in the last year and a half. Gang violence, climate change, the financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump, not wearing a face mask, eating meat, physical fitness, fast food, capitalism, communism, hip hop, smelling of Axe body spray, being stoic, risk-taking, religion, but also secularism and atheism, playing board games, being interested in cars, and saying hello or have a nice day. So I have already committed at least one crime because I've already said hello to you.
So yeah,
my point,
of course, this is just like a reductio, okay? Like, what he's doing here is he's misrepresenting the argument that there are certain aspects of toxic masculinity that can exacerbate some of these issues. So there were things that were talked about at the beginning, including like, I don't know, like climate change and things like that. No one's claiming that like toxic masculinity is the primary driver behind climate change. I want to go back and listen to some of the first examples, because after they got increasingly ridiculous, and of course he was trying to make it seem increasingly absurd, like, of course, if you ever make a connection between two things, you are claiming that said thing is the primary cause. Of course not, but is there an element to it? Absolutely. Let's go back.
Hip hop.
Go back a little more. Sorry.
The election of Donald Trump.
Okay, election of Donald Trump is a huge one. Absolutely. People who felt like their masculinity was being threatened. Okay, who felt that somehow being held accountable in some sort of way was in some sort of way a threat to their masculinity, and they needed to strike back against this force that was stopping them. There's so many aspects of Donald Trump and his fan base that are fundamentally toxically masculine. You know, the exacerbation of misogyny under his presidency and the way that he treated women. A lot of people identifying with that is toxically masculine. Okay, someone like Trump literally saying "quiet piggy" to a reporter is toxically masculine. Okay, is trying to exert your dominance over someone, especially a woman, by like exuding this sense of disrespect and dominance over her. So what did he say before?
You may know him, great guy, and he came on my show recently, and he said that all the following things last year and a half.
Okay, here,
gang violence,
okay,
climate.
Gang violence is absolutely part of it. Are you kidding me? Gang violence and people taking out their aggression violently and not having the outlets to express themselves and deal with their emotions and get the help that they need absolutely is an aspect of toxic masculinity. One of the most clearly defined toxically masculine traits or issues is violence, is aggression, is taking out those things or taking out those emotions or acting in such a violent way because men, in many instances, do not have and are not taught another outlet. Absolutely, that's an example of toxic masculinity. No one's claiming that gang violence is primarily driven by toxic masculinity, but there's a difference between being driven by and being an example of, or being something that is exacerbated by toxic masculinity. That's what's being said. Of course, gang violence is a much more, socioeconomic issue, and one that stems from decades of poverty and subjugation, and these things have all been studied and talked about in the war on drugs and packing people into marginalized communities and stripping them of agency, and all like this is very like well documented, and a lot of things that Piers would of course probably say are woke if we talk about systemic racism and the way that our society and gang violence is a reflection of the institutionalization of poverty and the criminalization of such. But this is not like somehow a gotcha, like, oh, these crazy people in gang violence is an example of toxic masculinity. Yeah, it is. It fundamentally is. Like, this is so, I don't know. What he's doing right here is he's shotgunning. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. Is when you make so many points at the same time, and he's making them increasingly ridiculous. So by the time Kylo responds, the conversation really isn't about what's being discussed at the beginning. And of course, again, Kyle's talking about, is this an emergent phenomenon? That of course, like, there's nothing like inherently toxic about men, but masculinity as a concept is an emergent social phenomenon, and therefore, that's what's that's what's driving this, is society and the way society is interacting with one another and the issues that we face. But of course, then Piers is just going to shotgun a bunch of like non-sequiting issues instead of actually addressing Kyla's question. So, all right.
Change. The financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump, not wearing a face mask.
Sure, not wearing a face mask. Feeling that, oh my God, wearing a mask is just so cuck and beta. Okay, and if you wear a mask to protect other people, God, that's such like a submissive mood. You should be You should be strong, and your immune system or something like that is strong enough. Like there's the whole idea of like protecting other people. That's seen as like beta, every man for himself kind of thing, state of nature. Yeah, that's an aspect. Absolutely.
Eating meat, physical fitness, fast food.
Physical fitness isn't inherently toxically masculine. However, there's an aspect of gym and fitness culture that is sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly toxically masculine, like overemphasizing the importance of certain physical standards over others, that men should focus their entire prioritization on their physical fitness and lacking or not focus on their mental fitness. Okay, that somehow the former is more important than the latter. Or men don't talk about their emotions, they just go to the gym. Yeah, that's a toxically masculine idea. So this is not ridiculous to bring up. Absolutely it is.
Capitalism, communism, hip-hop, smelling of Axe body spray, being stoic, risk-taking, religion, but also secularism and atheism.
I mean, look, there are enough people in the world, there are enough people in the world that someone is going to call everything like toxically masculine or something like that, okay? The fact that some people either misuse or throw around the terms loosely or sloppily doesn't mean that it's not apt. It's not an apt comparison. In many cases, it is. Is it the entire conversation? No, of course not. The entirety of climate change is not to blame on toxic masculinity, but an hyper-individualization that focuses on every man for himself, and that no one has this sort of overarching responsibility for the care and well-being of others outside of domination and conquest, can be partly to explain for why there is such a lack of care for our environment, or the environmental movement is painted as a bunch of these, soy plant eating tree huggers, okay? And that is directly in conflict with that, or somehow eating meat. If you don't eat meat, that's an example he brought up. If you don't eat meat and you just eat predominantly, plants, you're called a soy boy, because there's this false idea that soy is inherently estrogenic, when in fact that it's phytoestrogens, and they're not even the same thing as estrogen. That is the hormone found in both men and women, but often found in women more predominantly. So like that's an example of it. Of course, he's never going to dig that deep, because he's going for one-liners and gotchas that are designed to make this seem absurd and ridiculous, because he's not actually interested in having a conversation, but painting the other side as ridiculous instead of actually doing any real in-depth analysis. So
risk-taking, religion, but also secularism and atheism, playing board games, being interested in cars, and saying hello or have a nice day. I don't have
examples of that.
At least one crime.
I'm sure there are crazy people out there who've said everything, who've said that, everything under the sun is racist, or that saying hello in some way. Like, I'm not going to address, he's not even giving examples of it or providing the context. He's giving the ridiculousness and not doing any effort to try to charitably understand, if possible, where that person was coming from, because that's not what he's looking for. He's looking to mock and ridicule. So,
because I've already said hello to you.
That's
so
true.
my point being,
I'm actually really offended by that too.
Sorry?
I said I'm actually very offended by that too.
No, the thing is, I think the point I would make is, I think in a time when young men in particular, I've got 3 sons from 32 to 24, I think we've got to a weird place where they feel like they are the most downtrodden, picked upon people in society, with good reason in many cases. And a lot of it is down to this, where they don't know what masculinity is. My argument is, I don't think it's ever been toxic. What's happened is you have men behaving badly, but you also have women behaving badly, and no one calls that toxic femininity.
Yeah, they do.
Well,
Over to you.
I actually do call it toxic femininity. I think when you look at, I do. When you look at like gender studies and philosophy on this, right? We use this term called masculinities and femininities, because we understand that like the samurai era of masculinity looks very different than maybe the knights of the round table and whatnot. So we understand that masculinity has somewhat morphed and shifted. And in every form of these masculinities or femininities, there are unhealthy elements to each of them. Could you grant me that?
Well, it depends what you mean. I mean, what do you think masculinity is?
In our society, I think masculinity...
No, not in your society. Just generally. What is it?
Wait,
in North America, we would broadly view it as like...
Wait, that is a social phenomenon. You're like, describe what masculinity is. Not what our culture thinks it is, but just what it is. My brother in Christ, what our culture defines it is makes it what it is. That's what a social construct is. That's like asking me to describe the US dollar without describing how the treasury and our society uses a dollar. Yeah, it's a social construct. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I can't give you an objective definition of a social phenomenon. I can tell you how our society understands it, but I can't give you this like, yeah. So if everyone, so let's take all the humans out of the equation. What is masculinity? Well, masculinity ceases to exist because it's a collection of gender roles and ideas of what a man and a woman should be. Okay, and there are things that are associated with that, many of which in excess, as Kyla was mentioning, are bad, are problematic.
You got to say North America, masculinity is a thing. It's not like territory specific.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Okay, what is considered to be masculine in North America and what is considered to be like masculine dress in North America and where in North America are very different. Okay, it is considered, especially in America, very often when people reach the age of 18, they are considered, especially men, are considered they have to be on their own. I mean, this is shifting a little bit because of the cost of living, but historically in North America, and especially just in the United States, once someone turns 18, especially men, they're expected to provide for themselves and expected to get out there and do that. In other countries, that's not the same type of thing. Multi-generational and intergenerational families are very common. People in Asia and China often live at home for a much longer period of time. We can talk about wear and dress. Long hair in other cultures is not considered to be feminine, but rather masculine. There's not this universal standard of masculinity and femininity, like I said, because these are social phenomena.
Away with the toxic element. But actual masculinity, when it was first devised as a word, it's not an American thing, it's a global thing.
Do you think that Athenian masculinity and Spartan masculinity were the same in the Greeks?
I think masculinity has never changed. All that's changed is the interpretation of it. And what I can't abide is this modern phenomenon.
Spartan masculinity was you just kill your children if they're weak. Athenian masculinity was different in terms of we ought to care. And Egyptian masculinity was that we ought to care for the poorest among us. They're both social phenomenon, okay? They're both social understandings. Piers doesn't know the difference, so he's just going to go on some tirade about something that has nothing to do with the question that's answered because Piers is allergic to answering questions because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. God.
Everything about masculinity, everything about being a man, which I am currently identifying as, everything about me is supposedly toxic.
That's not what it means, motherfucker! Oh my god, we're literally like less than 5 minutes into the video, I'm already crashing out. This is such a fucking straw man, okay? Toxic masculinity does not mean that all of masculinity is toxic. It means that certain traits that are exhibited and associated with masculinity in excess can be toxic. Not talking about your emotions to the extent at which you harm yourselves and others instead of dealing with them healthfully is toxic, okay? Not talking about your emotions as well as demonizing other men who do is toxic. Demonizing gay men and other men who don't live the same lifestyle as you is toxic, okay? Not caring about other people and thinking of the only thing you need to care about is yourself is toxic. Thinking therapy is beta and cuck and for people who aren't strong and resilient and you just have to power through is toxically masculine. It doesn't mean that holding a door for someone, a woman or otherwise, is toxic. It doesn't mean that being a man itself is toxic, okay? That is your straw man version that you want to present to people so that they think the entirety of the legitimate conversation that we on the left are having to try to improve men's lives is false, okay? That's what you're doing, okay? Jesus Christ. Maybe that's why I don't make these videos as much anymore. It fucking raises my blood pressure.
I would reject the idea that everything that masculinity is toxic. I think that there can be bad elements of anything.
What do you like about men?
What do I like about men? Lots of things. I think that like the idea of protectionism is good. I think the willingness to kind of like self-sacrifice is very tied to the version of masculinity we have. I think that that's a very good thing. I think the like desire to provide is also a really good thing, and stand up for like principles and strength. I think all of these things are wonderful things. Well, the issue.
Do you like men to be hunters, providers, protectors?
I don't really care about them being hunters.
Really? Well, how are they going to get all these things to help you?
In this economy, I'd prefer them just to be like
go to the grocery store.
Fiscally capable. Let's go back to the Athenians. Let's go back to Athenians and Spartans, though, right? If you want to say masculinity has always been the same, well, the issue is history would disagree with you, right? In Athens, for example, it was completely normal for you to participate in civility and talk and do philosophy, but Spartan men, for example, wouldn't even touch coins, right? They viewed it as a very different thing.
Whereas what's that got to do with them being masculine?
Well, because the version of masculinity that they had viewed certain things like commerce as feminine. If you go to samurais, they viewed poetry as masculine, whereas if you go to like Victorian era, poetry is often associated with femininity.
But what does any of that got to do with toxic masculinity?
Because if we look at masculinity, we have
to
acknowledge...
because you made a claim, motherfucker, and it was false. That's what she's saying. You say, dumbass, that masculinity has always been the same. I'm speaking as Kyla, present to you that it clearly was not, and you're like, what does that have to do with toxic masculinity? It proves you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So if you're gonna make such an asinine claim that masculinity has always been the same, why should I take you seriously about your claim that masculinity has never been toxic when you don't even know what the fuck masculinity is? This is why I wasn't on this episode. I mean, obviously, I'd be a little bit more cordial than this if I was talking to Piers, but oh my god, this is insufferable.
Okay, but what does any of that got to do with toxic masculinity?
Because if we look at masculinity, we have to acknowledge that it is emergent out of a society that we are participating in. When I said, well, in North America, you rejected that, and I go, well, that's the foundational piece of this. What we're talking about, toxic masculinity, is essentially a North American version of masculinity that we seem to not like.
Well, no, it's not. It's a symptom of, and forgive my phraseology here, but it's a symptom of weak, whiny, woke wastrels who've decided they're going to revise what masculinity is.
I think it's intergenerational trauma.
Hang on, I'll give you a chance to respond. And they're going to make all men feel terrible. They're going to make men hate themselves. They're going to make everybody else hate men.
Don't beat your wives. Go to therapy. You hate me. What the fuck are we doing? Stop killing yourselves. I don't want you to kill yourself as a man. I know that men have higher suicide rates. So here's a process in order to ensure that you're less likely to do so. Let's talk about your problems and deal with things in a way that are healthy. You hate me as a man. What are we on? Oh my god.
And at that point, I'm like, what are you doing here? Why would women, for example, want their men to be weak, whiny, woke wastrels?
Well, I think the issue that you're neglecting here is the high levels of intergenerational trauma amongst men. I mean, if we go back to World War II, it's followed by the Vietnam War, right? We see men dying by the thousands, and then they come back and they have PTSD, and then they go off again and die by the thousands. And so when we look at like the lack of masculinity and masculine role models, we have to understand this through a lens of understanding that like men have been like scooped out and killed over and over, and then when they come back, they're destroyed. And there isn't really an answer for men. I agree that there's this systemic lacking of answer on the left for men in a lot of ways. The issue is that we can't address
I think the left
problem.
hate men. I mean,
Just to pause you.
They do. Even movies like Barbie.
I'm left.
What do you mean? How does Barbie hate men? Oh my god.
Okay, here's a little secret for you. I'm slightly left. I'm an old-fashioned liberal.
Do you hate men?
I'm not a. You see, they all think probably I'm a right-wing headbanger. I'm not. I'm an old-fashioned liberal. I believe in liberalism, and I believe there's nothing wrong with being feminine or masculine. I hate the way that masculinity has been tarred with this brush of everything about it is toxic.
But it's not. That's just your fucking misunderstanding of it. This is the problem of echo chambers and people believing what they want to believe. Is there are people like Piers and people who are, I think, a bit more nefarious than him. I'm not saying Piers isn't nefarious to an extent. I just don't think he's the same as the right-wing incel, Andrew Wilson, Myron Gaines type. But what he does is he's basically parroting the same talking points that they do, and making this echo in this ecosystem of where the same ideas are presented over and over and over. So I'm not going to say understandably, but I think there are a lot of men, and this is because social media companies want to make money, so they're strategically pushing content onto the pages of young boys that paints to them this caricature, this misunderstanding of feminism, this mischaracterization of feminism and toxic masculinity as man-hating and entirely negative towards masculinity, when that's never been what it is at all, according to literally anyone except for maybe some edgy person on the internet who's trying to just say, oh my god, I hate men, we should kill all of them, in some sort of like edgy, clearly that's an example of being toxic type of way. But Piers isn't trying to have that conversation. He's just trying to grift here. Like, this is exhausting.
But the issue is that you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to look at things like Victorian Stoicism and recognize how that has harmed young men because
Stoicism? Don't be ridiculous.
Hold on, Victorian Stoicism, not Greek, not Greco-Stoicism.
Stoicism generally is a good trait.
I love Stoicism, Hellenistic Stoicism, not Greek.
Well, let me read you something. You've raised Stoicism. Sure. The American Psychological Association released a set of guidelines to help psychologists.
Why are they voting her out? This is the problem. Whenever someone's actually having a good conversation, Kyla is very smart.
Work with Men and Boys, in which it stated that male masculine traits like stoicism, competitiveness, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness, adventure and risk should all be discarded. Now, I would categorize.
Hold on, let's see the fact check here. What does this say? APA guidelines state components of traditional masculinity, such as emotional stoicism, homophobia, true, not showing vulnerability, true, self-reliance. Self-reliance isn't a bad thing, but over self-reliance, this idea, this over-individualization, competitiveness might deter them from forming close relationships with male peers. Absolutely. There's nothing controversial about that. Now, Piers, of course, mischaracterizes it that we need to throw, once again, as Kyla pointed out rightly, we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But yeah, this idea that, men have more, what is it? This is a really good point that someone brought up, and I don't remember who said it, but men do more side-by-side activities instead of face-to-face activities. Women will go get coffee with each other. Women will go to a farmer's market, have conversations and chats, while men will play a video game on a couch or do something that involves sitting next to each other instead of actually, having conversations and talking and actually becoming deep because, they need to remain stoic. They can't be vulnerable. They just have to compete with one another because there's a competitive aspect instead of a collaborative aspect. What that fact check says is very true. There's nothing controversial about it. Of course, Piers has to throw in his own twist and lie at the end, but somehow the APA says we need to discard all of these. No, this, like everything, is, I mean, maybe not homophobia. Let's say that. There's no moderation. I was going to say that all these in moderation are important. On homophobia. Let's not hate gay people just a little bit. But all the other ones, it's good to be emotionally resolute. It's good to be, appropriately vulnerable. Obviously, we don't want someone who breaks down all the time. It's important to be self-reliant, have a healthy dose of competitiveness. But that doesn't mean that, those in excess are not bad. And in many cases, traditional masculinity emphasizes those, traditionally masculine traits. I mean, once again, this is like we're playing a language game. So whether traditional masculinity aligns more with toxic masculinity versus, healthy masculinity is, fine. I think that, I think that I said this when I was on Jubilee. I think toxic masculinity is a perversion of masculinity. Okay, I think it is masculinity gone wrong, and we need to focus on that. But nothing about this is controversial. Nothing about it is man hating. Literally, the end of the fact check here that Piers is, very, very conveniently leaving out is that the point of this is to help them form more close relationships with their male peers. God, they just hate men so much. They want men to be able to have healthier relationships with one another. Oh, they hate men. What? How fucking brain rotted and idiotic are these people? I mean, I think a lot of them aren't. They're intentionally misunderstanding it because it's, ideologically beneficial to them. But Jesus Christ.
Adventure and risk should all be discarded. Now, I would categorize all of those things as the very best of being a real man. Why would you want them discarded?
Why you left out homophobia.
I don't want most of those things. Let's talk about stoicism.
I think we agree with each other. I think you agree with me too much. Anyway, it's lovely to meet you.
No, that's the correct characterization.
Hello.
Hi, Piers.
How are you?
Ceci.
Ceci, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay. First, I want to say that I don't think that masculinity is toxic.
Great.
I just think
Debate
that
over.
some men
Hang on.
use their.
Hang on.
Wait.
Debate over.
No, it's not.
That's the whole point
the
of my
problem
argument. I agree
is,
with you.
No,
Shut up, Piers.
because you're talking about a trait, right? So I don't think masculinity is toxic. I think men use their masculinity in toxic ways or hide other traits that are toxic behind their masculinity.
Okay. I don't agree with
let her
that. Here's
continue.
why. They're not using their masculinity. They're just being bad people.
Okay.
So
but
I think there's a clear difference.
So then men like Andrew Tate, when they are bad people, but
Yeah.
then stand like, I'm a protector, I'm a provider, they're
Yeah.
using their masculinity as
I've
a
interviewed
guise.
I've interviewed Andrew Tate a number of times. Here's what I think about him. I think he says a lot of things which young men gravitate to because very few other people are trying to empower them about the way they look. Hang on.
No, I'm not.
Let me finish my sentence.
I
don't
can
let
have
her
facial
finish,
reaction to
motherfucker.
it if I want to, right?
Actually, that's fair enough. You
Right.
can. He can look horrified. But here's the point about Andrew Tate, is a lot of the things he says, I know why they resonate with young men.
Okay.
Because young men feel sort of worthless, they feel disenfranchised by society, they're not sure where to go. Many of them lack father figures. There's chest-beating Andrew Tate saying, keep fit, don't abuse yourself too much.
Just women.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to come to that.
Abuse women
And
instead.
So he
yeah.
says all these things, which men go, yeah, that's good. And aspire to be great, aspire to be successful, do this, work hard, and all this stuff. And then you get to his blatant misogyny. Right, he is a terrible misogynist. He thinks that women should be left at home, never allowed to vote,
I know who he is,
never
yeah.
allowed to work. I know, but my point is, I agree with you about that trait of his. Right, I think it's horrible, but that's not toxic masculinity.
Yes, it is.
That is actually misogyny. There's a word for it.
I guess the reason, but I think that all
And I don't want to. I'll let her say what she's going to say before I chime in, so I don't steal her point.
this was fueled by people like Andrew Tate. Because like you said, toxic masculinity, we've never spoke about this before. But I think the reason it's on the table now is because of men like Andrew Tate. It's not because of women calling men
So call
toxic.
it what it is. Call him a
literally
misogynist.
because red pill podcasters, especially during the pandemic, if you were already a loner, you became even more alone. So they needed a community. So everyone's living life online in these, what they thought was a community, because all these men did was validate their shitty feelings that they already had about themselves.
Yes, but
It was an echo chamber, and they have to keep them sad and angry, tell them to place the blame on women and minorities so that they get their pockets filled.
But here's the thing.
They monetized
Am I allowed to get a
insecurities
word
and
in?
trauma. You can
That's
have
a
your
lot.
facial
Time out.
reactions.
Time out.
Go ahead.
Politely.
Go ahead.
I think what you're talking about is misogyny. There's already a word for that. It's not toxic masculinity. That's the point of my argument.
It can be emergent of toxic masculinity because there are elements of traditional masculinity which are fine. You know, it's important to be self-reliant. Mind you, none of these things should really be considered, you know, in essential or only fulfilled by men. You know what I mean? Like, of course, women can do these things as well. And don't think if a woman is being a provider, she's being inherently masculine. So that's why, like, a lot of these gender roles and type things are kind of fall apart when you think about it. But regardless, yes, this kind of over-reliance and over, you know, like this, oh my God, you can never talk about your emotions, leads to this idea that showing your emotions is inherently feminine, is inherently weak, is inherently unfulfilling, or is inherently being a woman. And that's misogynistic because it views things that are feminine as less than. Toxic masculinity and the excesses of masculinity view femininity as less than, which is misogynistic. You can't distinguish toxic masculinity from misogyny and say that one is the latter but not the former. It's both. It's fundamentally both. And masculinity in its excesses is inherently misogynistic, okay? So once again, Piers is trying to play a language game by saying this is just bad behavior, okay? It's just misogyny. Yeah, misogyny can often be explained by the excesses of masculine traits, of masculinity gone wrong, of perverted masculinity, which is toxic masculinity. So, yeah.
I don't think masculinity has ever been toxic. I do think some men are horrible misogynists
But do you think
and should
some
be
of them
called
hide
out,
behind
as
it?
I call them out.
Don't you think some men hide behind their masculinity? Like, I'm sick of hearing men say, we have to protect and provide.
Why shouldn't we?
Well, no. But the thing is half of you, what are you going to protect me from? Another man. And half of them can't hunt down a job. Like,
Or other women.
Or other women, sure, yeah, other people. But that's
who
the
they
thing I'm
actually
saying is
protect,
that men, I don't understand why. I feel like a lot of blame gets placed on women for all of this, but in reality, you've done it to each other.
I don't blame women for
You've
that.
done it to each other.
I don't blame women for any of this. I think that, well, actually, that's not completely true. I blame some women who have deliberately, in my opinion, like a lot of men have done too, taken the word masculinity and they have traduced it into meaning something it was never intended to mean. Like I said, those words, which the American Psychological Association have deemed unacceptable and should be discarded, are all the absolute foundation of what I believe it takes to be a man.
The excesses of those traits can lead it to become difficult for males to have close, healthy relationships with their male counterparts. That's what it fucking says, dude. Wow, they hate men so much. They want them to actually become emotionally vulnerable with one another and open up to have meaningful, fulfilling relationships. This is why this is so nonsensical. Okay, it is ludicrous. It is ridiculous. I don't take anything Piers says seriously whatsoever at all.
Ah, damn it. I wanted
just when we were getting to know each other.
Pick me for the last 10. I got a lot to say.
I'll think about it. How are you?
Good to see you.
What's your name?
Parker.
Parker, I'm Piers.
I've been on your show, bro.
Yes, I thought I recognized you. When was that?
After the Jordan Peterson Jubilee debate.
Yes, that's right, you
Yeah,
did.
he has quoted us as gaytheists on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think it was ridiculous. I'm literally straight. But
Oh, you're straight?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I can understand why you'd find that annoying.
oh, I don't find it annoying. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to use that as an argument. But in
I
general,
will not call you a gay theist.
okay, in general, the point that I would make here is that toxic masculinity is kind of an overexpression of certain masculine traits that we see in this certain context to be harmful. We're not saying all masculine traits are harmful or it's harmful to be a masculine man. It's certain characteristics that we would
Which
associate with
masculine
masculinity.
trait do you think is harmful?
Yeah, like for example, an overexpression of stoicism. And I think that a lot of red pill people.
What?
Wait, hold up. Let me explain. I said an overexpression
How
of
can
stoicism.
stoicism ever
Be
ever,
overexpressed?
ever be a bad thing? Explain to me.
Yeah, so again, if you were to specifically hide your feelings and put them underneath, specifically for, like, say, the death of a loved one, I don't think that would be harmful, positive specifically for you addressing your feelings in that circumstance. I think you should address those feelings, talk about them, express them to loved ones and people that
Sure,
are comfortable,
but
you're comfortable
That
around.
doesn't mean you can't still be stoic.
Correct.
Well, then what do you mean by stoicism? Because I'm talking about an
Stoicism-
overexpression of keeping down your emotions and not expressing
No,
them
that's
and
not
like
what stoicism.
actively,
No.
positively addressing them.
Stoicism doesn't mean you have to be an sort of unemotional, Spock from Star Trek. That's not what it means at all. Stoicism means that when you're dealt a tough blow in life, you're able to reach inside yourself and deal with it in a strong manner, right? Which is a good thing.
Thank you. Look at them literally clocking in with the definition. Stoicism, the quality of experiencing pain or trouble without complaining or showing your emotions. Yes. Okay. Aspects of stoicism can be helpful for some people, and I think that's good. But once again, an overemphasis on it is problematic. So Piers, once again, is softening his definition of things. Once you learn about certain logical fallacies, you view them all the time. I mean, this is, I guess, kind of a straw man because he's not actually representing stoicism. But it's also doing something, I've talked about this before, it's called the Mott and Bailey fallacy. This idea that you may basically make a strong claim, and then you defend a softer, more easily defensible claim and pretend like it extends to the more bold claim. So the definition of stoicism is not what Piers is saying, that if you're dealt a tough blow in life, you just, push through and do your best with the cards you've been dealt. No, that's not it. But by defending that claim, which is very defensible, and I don't think most people would disagree with that, he's assuming that it's going to defend this larger claim, that stoicism ought to be understood as never experiencing pain or showing your emotions. Once again, Piers just doesn't understand the meaning of words. He wrote a whole book on this apparently, but of course does no research to actually understand the concept he's talking about, only enough to validate his own opinion and ideas in writing. So,
quote to my kids. They can all tell you the speech off by heart. There's a scene in my favorite films were the Rocky movies. The first four were great. The fifth one was a turkey. The sixth one came back called Rocky Balboa. And in it, Rocky's son's in his 20s. He's a spoiled brat. He hates being Rocky's son. He's whining about everything. He's kind of pretty woke, weak, whiny, moaning about his lot in life. Telling woe is me all the time. So Rocky eventually has it out with his son in the street. And he says, look, life is tough. It will beat you down and it will keep you down if you let it. If you want to win at life, you've got to learn it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit, get back up, and keep moving forward. No, that's how winning is done.
No one's arguing against that in
right,
general.
So that's
right?
stoic, but that is stoicism.
So, but you're misunderstanding my argument. I'm saying an overexpression of watering down and not addressing your emotions. I think we both agree that would be a bad expression of your emotions. And oftentimes men view it that way because they say if you address your emotions to any degree, there's going to be, don't be a man, don't cry, be a man. So that's an idea of an overexpression of masculinity in that sense that becomes toxic.
So you say
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And so you say
so then you agree toxic masculinity makes sense.
No. That's not what I'm saying. So you would find it objectionable to use the phrase "man up," for example,
in the context in which someone is having a positive address of their particular emotions. And in typical, I wouldn't use into like that type of phrase. You'd say maybe you should address your emotions in a more positive way. Maybe you should go to therapy. A lot of people should do that. Men should go to therapy. It's an important thing that they should do.
Maybe.
And that would be positive for their life.
I've never been to therapy in my life.
You should.
And I don't cry all the time. I think the last time I cried was about 12 years ago when my grandmother died. I just think this is overdone. We just moved from an incredibly stoic generation, say the World War II generation, who were literally sacrificing their lives for their country.
What happened to them?
But weren't.
Hold on. What happened to the World War II generation? I mean, Kyla kind of brought this up at the beginning. They had what was considered to be shell shock because we did not have a name for post-traumatic stress disorder because these things were not defined. And they suddenly came back and they were just completely traumatized and just didn't have the words of a treatment to explain it. So many of them killed themselves because they couldn't deal with the horrors of war that they experienced because they didn't have the tools available to them, because men just need to man up and, just keep powering forward and not address what's going on. That's an example of toxic masculinity that Piers is not addressing.
crying all the time to an era now.
No, wait, why are you associating what I'm saying with crying all the time or being weak?
You're the one who mentioned crying, so let me just explain what I'm talking about. I don't think it suits anybody to encourage a society to constantly be over-emotional
Who said that?
I'm not
No
saying
one
you should
said
suppress
that.
emotions,
No one-
and if you feel emotions about something, I'm all for it. I can get emotional with the best of them, normally about my football team, but I don't spend all my time blubbing like a baby. And
No
my
one says you
argument
should do
would be,
that.
well, hang on, I'm going to finish my point. I think that if you look at the woke world generally, there seems to be a premium on over-emoting and not enough of a premium, in my view, of stiff upper lip, pull yourself together and crack on. Because let me tell you, there are two things you want to worry about in life, really worry about. I say this to my kids: dying and getting a terminal illness. Outside of those two things, everything is surmountable. You can overcome anything.
What about if your partner cheats on you?
But what you've got, yeah,
like,
even
does it make
that.
sense? Okay, so there are plenty of examples we can give where people
Yes,
are going to have
but
like
my point is,
legitimate circumstances to cry or
I
be
don't
sad.
think-
But like I'm asking you, like in the circumstance, give a specific what you're referencing in terms of these woke liberals of how they're being too overly emotional.
Well, you're talking to me about why you want people to be more emotional. I'm telling you, I don't think that's
No.
I want them to express
a
it
good
in
thing.
positive manners, like go to therapy, like how I told you.
Yeah, but I think we're over-therapied. Everyone I know over here goes to therapy.
You haven't gone to therapy at all. How are you over therapy?
Why don't you come and talk to me if you want to talk to somebody? I'll soon sort you out.
Wait, I can talk to my therapist and we can
I know,
actually
but
engage
is
in
it
positive
working?
reconstruction
Is it
of how I address things. Yes, actually, it's been very helpful for my mental health and my emotional health to be able to talk them through, to be able to like, what can I do to like make myself feel better in these circumstances? Am I being genuinely like real here, like, or am I being a little bit too overly emotional in circumstances? It's totally a question I ask my therapist all the time.
Yeah,
so if you want to talk about being overly emotional, how to address being overly emotional, how about you just start with therapy? What's your solution? What's your solution?
Calm down.
I'm calm. I'm totally calm. Wait, do you think me talking fast is not being like calm?
I just think you don't want me to get a word in, right? And
I
I'm
wanted
sitting
to
here.
finish my statement.
Right, I just think people go to therapy too
Parker
much.
annoys
Sorry,
you.
I do. You may not like to
Why?
hear it, because I just think going and talking to some stranger about all your problems all the time, get a grip.
It's not all the time.
Get
It's
a
every
grip.
once in a while you go and talk about your problems
listen,
specifically so you can address them.
Well,
Do you
look,
not talk about your problems
I look
ever
at
with
you.
anyone?
I look at Parker.
This is the problem I talked
Parker,
about.
stop talking. I look at you and I see somebody who's confident, you're a good talker, you're obviously intelligent, you've obviously got a lot going for you. Stop spending all this money going to see some stranger to go over everything in
It's
agonizing
not that much
detail.
money to be able to go every once in a while to go see a therapist for
I
me
wouldn't bother.
specifically in my life.
I've never been to one in my life.
It's not much money for you. You could easily go with the money that
I
you
don't
make
want to
and
go.
go talk to a therapist.
I don't need to go
I
to
understand
therapy.
And you think it's weak, okay? And you think it makes you less of a man. This is the whole. Piers is a beautiful example of toxic masculinity because he won't even consider therapy because he thinks it makes him weak.
I don't want to. Everyone says that specifically before going into it. I said the same thing. But I'm telling you, you can actually address your emotions in a positive way.
Parker,
And also,
Parker, here's what I'd rather do. I would rather, honestly, have groups of people like you in the woke world, right, who clearly are struggling with regular life, right?
What?
I'm not struggling with regular
everything's
life.
a calamity, everything's a problem, has to be overanalyzed,
No one said
over-dissected,
that.
over-therapized. And I just think you've all got to be given the mental tools to deal with ordinary life. Ordinary life.
We already have them.
Ordinary
I actually
life,
have
let
gone
me
to
tell
therapy
you,
to do that.
Ordinary
Have
life,
you?
yeah, but without going to therapy all the time.
Wait, what's your solution? What's your solution?
People, I think at school and colleges, we need to reinforce, this comes back to masculinity with men. We need to reinforce the mental tools required for life.
Such as?
Well, I can tell you when I can
Give
chart the
examples.
absolute descent of
Give a
this.
fucking example. Oh my god. He's allergic to specifics because there are none. Okay, so he's talking in vague generalities, okay? The first half of his book was insufferable. He never actually, I did not read the second half and I never planned to. No specifics whatsoever at all. He'll go on a whole tirade about some concept and idea that annoys him, and he'll never give an example of it. Or he'll give one very vague, unspecific example with no context of how it's prevalent whatsoever at all. It's just a random person.
In the wrong way. And I think it began in America, when you started giving kids participation prizes for coming last at sport. Absolute shambles. I mean, whoever thought of that?
How does this have to do with
Heard it here, folks. The downfall of our society is giving children participation trophies at their fucking Cub Scout Pinewood Derby. Oh my god. That's the root of everything. Everything that's wrong is we gave a kid a fucking participation trophy.
actually like men making their emotions better off. It's participation trophies. Oh my gosh.
I'm explaining because if young people are conditioned to think that if you come last at something, you get a prize, it is the worst possible preparation for the real world.
So what's the actual solution?
Parker,
You're just telling a problem again. Problem. What's the solution?
Parker, if I could finish my sentence.
Start with the solution.
The solution is you just stop talking for a moment, right?
How about you actually provide a solution? All you've done is bring about problems.
Parker, I've just given you a solution. I want
That's
more.
not a solution. That's a problem.
Yes, you stop participation prizes. You condition kids to deal with the real world when they become adults.
Otherwise, when they men not having the ability to address their emotions in a positive way is literally participation trophies not being there.
Advantage is so annoying. Look,
have you been on your own show?
Parker.
You interrupted me the whole time, and now you're just getting the same thing.
Well, because you're just stop talking.
Don't be mad. Don't be mad.
Parker,
are you mad?
No, I'm trying to finish my sentence.
It's okay.
Parker, come on, calm down. You're shaking.
I'm totally calm.
Parker.
I'm not shaking at all.
Parker, you're shaking.
I'm not shaking. Why do you have to act like I'm? Why do you have to say something delusional to try to deflect away from the fact that you haven't addressed anything meaningful here?
Christ, Parker. My point is, there's a brilliant book by Jonathan Haidt about the impact of smartphones on young brains, right? And it goes back to 2010 when smartphones became smart. In other words, you could access absolutely everything. And I look at what happens on my feed each day, and I'm horrified about what may happen to younger, more impressionable brains, right? And so young people's brains have got scrambled. So since 2010, there's a direct correlation of young people who get ever more anxious, ever more depressed, in some cases, tragically, ever more suicidal. And it's been driven by this constant negative dopamine. So partly, I understand why what I call the weak, whiny, woke wastrels are like they are, because they're constantly getting overloaded with negative dopamine, which is making them think the whole world's about to end. In fact, as Steven Pinker has explained in great detail, statistically, this has never been a better time to be alive. There are fewer wars than in recorded history. People are living longer and healthier than in recorded history. There's less child poverty than in recorded history.
Okay, cool.
Water is cleaner than in recorded history, etc., etc., etc. The problem is social media amplifying all the bad stuff going on, making young people think the world's about to end. It's not. So
Hold on. There's a combination of the two things. This is the problem with people. If you hate America so much, why don't you go live in another third world country? Fallacy of relative privation. It's fucking stupid. It's an idiot point to try to make. Okay? Things can be better than they have been in the past and yet still be inadequate, and things we have to fight for. Fight to make better. Okay? The idea of just, you know what? Be grateful for what you have. Don't fight for anything better. What? This is the whole... I'm already exhausted from this. This is just... Yeah, we should not think the world is ending. Okay? We should not become defeatist and have a defeatist attitude or catastrophize over things. These are all problems that exist to some degree. The problem is Piers overemphasizes the severity, one of them, but two, the solutions to them. Okay? He's becoming very much on the side of, like, you know, we just need to never go to therapy, but also, you know, as much as I hate to say it, because Parker, his voice grinds my gears. I don't really know how to explain it, but I don't know. He's a debate, bro. He's there to like have a debate and score his points, and he just comes off being a pretentious asshole. But basically with Piers, what he's doing is he's basically just diagnosing problems that exist in some capacity in terms of, you know, did Jonathan Haidt talk about the advent of smartphones and how they have, you know, done a lot of damage to young people, and that's totally fair and true. But the problem with that is the solution to that is to like not go on the total opposite and like, you know, like become like this inherently stoic figure. Is to engage in these behaviors in moderation, still go to therapy, talk about your problems. It's very important, especially for men who are not given an outlet to do so, but also, you know, see these problems as they are and come up with solutions to them that are effective and helpful, not ones that align with this worldview of like that, you know, that the left hates men. Okay. Like it's exhausting.
Like young people to be given the proper tools in their education process to enable them to deal with the real world and make them catastrophize less. I do think in this country, as in my country, young people are over-medicated. I think they go to therapy too much. I think they end up over-analyzing and over-self-obsessing. I think it can make them quite narcissistic. It's all me, and woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. I think we've got to a place, oddly, in society where losing is deemed to be better than winning, where winning is something that should be frowned upon.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's the whole idea of participation trophies. The point of sports when you're younger is participation. Is learning the social skills to interact with one another and have you know, and have a good time. That's the point of it. is to engage with other people of your age, especially as a child, and have fun. Okay, so the fact that like the winner isn't valorized to the extent to which you find acceptable doesn't mean that we're destroying kids by being like, all right, everyone gets a little prize here. Okay, because that's the point of those types of activities. Okay, like the winner knows they're the winner. And I also think that we should also teach kids in that same context, yeah, you won. Okay? Enjoy the satisfaction knowing you won the game. Why do we need to give you something additional to feel that somehow you are better than everyone else because you won? That's the other end of it, other side of it. But it's just it's such a ludicrous argument.
Better to be a good loser and get all your mates to like you going, oh my God, I just failed my driving test for the 20th time, but I'm so proud of myself. I'm like, you're a terrible driver. Get better, right? So it's all about how you treat these things. And out of it, hopefully, I would produce a nation of people like me, Parker.
I would love to be able to respond.
Perfect way to end.
I'd love to be able to respond.
And that's the feel. Good to see you. My next surrounding claim is that woke ideology is anti-liberal and fascistic.
Fascistic, wow. That's wild. There's
How's
Evan.
it going?
How are you?
Good to meet you. My name is Evan.
Evan?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Evan.
My issue with this claim is I find associating wokeism with fascism to be quite ironic. Wokeism to me is a term that's used, a shorthand pejorative term that's used to describe left-wing cultural politics. And I think the term wokeism and people on the right often use it as a means to deflect and distract from class politics. And there's a very key example of this. So the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, this was something that you actually celebrated quite a bit when it initially came into office. Elon Musk was coming in to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. Obviously, they found 0 instances of fraud. To the extent they found waste, it was just stuff that they ideologically disagreed with. And there were all these programs they were cutting, for example, like LGBTQ programs in Latin America, et cetera. And we were celebrating this all as a big victory. But this was all a distraction because what the agency was actually doing was destroying the National Labor Relations Board, a board that is designed to protect workers' abilities to unionize, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a bureau that is meant to protect consumers from billionaire capitalists like Elon Musk. These institutions, along with the IRS, all of these institutions meant to actually protect and put a check on capitalist billionaires like Elon Musk and the consolidation of fascistic power in our state. All of that was being distracted by this term wokeism. And I think that like when you obsess over things like trans people in sports or DEI policies and XYZ, it is a deliberate means to distract from these very real issues.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Well, let's take what you just mentioned, trans athletes in sports. Do you think it's a good idea?
Not necessarily. I mean,
it either is or it isn't.
So it depends on which sport, and it depends on which
sport is it a good idea?
But notice what you're doing right now, right?
You mentioned it. I didn't mention it.
Well, what I mentioned is that these are all a means to distract from the very real issue.
Okay.
Well, can you at least, very least, acknowledge that you did celebrate Doge despite it rooting out all these institutions that actually impact Americans' lives?
I'll answer you. Sure. I thought the cutting government waste was a good thing.
Sure.
Do I think it was well executed? Not particularly.
He was immediately latched onto it.
You've got to let me finish.
Sorry, go for it.
That was actually really funny. He latched onto it immediately. Oh, trans people, let's talk about trans people instead of all the legitimate issues you brought up. Like, he fell right into the trap that Evan laid for him.
I think it was well executed, not particularly. You know, Elon left pretty quickly and the government just carried on spending a ton of money. You know, do I think some of the things they cut were wrong? Yes, I agree with you. Do I think all of them? No, I think they did find examples of waste. So, you know, if you had a proper, consistent, ongoing Doge mentality, which cut genuine things which we all can agree are probably a bit wasteful, I'd be all for it. Do I support everything they cut? No, I don't. But given you mentioned the trans thing, because I hear a lot from the woke left, and I try and say to them, look, if you want to know why Donald Trump got reelected, your worst nightmare coming true, and you all sit there on election day thinking, how on earth has this happened? Well, one of the reasons was he just stood there. Well, you can shake your head, but one of the reasons is he stood there and went, under me, if I get elected, then I am going to ban trans athletes from women's sport.
Yeah. Well,
no.
If you wait, can I just respond?
No,
to that
I'm going to add one thing to it, then you can respond. If you remember, Kamala Harris endorsed it, thought it was a good idea. So the first potential female president of the United States thought it was fair and equitable and safe that biological males compete in women's sport.
Under certain regulations that were already in place. Okay, the idea that like the culture war of, you know, deciding who participates in fucking high school sports is what caused you to vote in an election is wild. Jesus Christ. I hope it was all worth it.
Trump understood that most people in America, most people around the world, outside of the woke left, do not agree with that. And there's a reason we don't agree with it. Let me finish. The Olympics are coming here, right? To Los Angeles.
And you're also wrong about Imam Khalif, by the way. Yeah.
Well, I'm not wrong about Imam Khalif. Well, Imam Khalif was banned from the World Championships. She's an Algerian boxer, banned from the World Championships because of testing positive for male chromosomes, right?
That's not true.
Well, it is true.
No, so
you may not want to believe it, but it is true.
So the International Olympic Committee said that Imam Khalif was both born female. She has a female passport. Algeria, you think Algeria, the state of Algeria, recognizes trans identity? Really, Piers? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. The only institution the institution that claimed that she failed an unspecified gender or sex identity test was some Russian-backed organization that is not internationally recognized by the International Olympic Committee. But wait, no. Let me reset.
Evan, you can't say something and me not challenge you back if you're
I know,
wrong.
but that's exactly what you did earlier. I just need
to
quickly get into.
All Imam Khalif has to do is take a sex test.
Sure, okay.
They're now bringing the sex test in. Then there's no problem. Why do you think Imam Khalif is not taking a sex test?
I don't want you to distract from the fact that the election, there is no evidence that people voted based on their opinions on trans identity.
Let me give it to you.
In a Gallup 2024
there is
poll.
no evidence?
In a Gallup 2024 poll, post-election, out of 22 issues, trans issues ranked 22 out of 22.
Can I respond?
In every election in all OECD countries across the world, inflation and the economy. Yes, I just let you go on.
Let me just respond to you.
Sure.
Actually, if you read the New York Times the week after the election,
I did read the New York Times.
Then you will remember a deep dive they did into it. Wait a minute, stop talking. You want to talk all the time.
You were interrupting him the whole time.
Sorry.
There was a New York Times.
Oh my God! You fucking interrupted Evan his entire time. Oh.
Into a particular commercial ad, campaign ad that the Trump side put out. And they originally started it in a few sports arenas. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the ad was basically a 30-second mashup of Kamala Harris endorsing trans athletes in women's sport and in women's spaces and so on and so on. And it ended with Kamala is for they, them.
Trump is for
Donald Trump is for you. Yeah. The New York Times said that they believe that moved the needle, they're reporting, by as much as 3 points.
Based on what information?
Ask the New York Times.
No, that's not. You understand news agencies aren't conducting polling analysis by themselves. That same article cited the Gallup poll that I just identified where trans issues ranked 22 out of 22.
One ad moved the needle by 3 points.
And based on what information? If you poll people on what issues that they cared about in the 2024 election,
so
all of it was centered around economy and inflation. And this is just obvious because this was a global phenomenon. Every incumbent party across the world lost elections.
A lot of Democrats and people on the woke left in particular have tried to assure me that absolutely nobody cares about trans athletes in women's sport.
People care, the right cares, but your median voter cares more about what's in their pocketbook.
My question for you is,
and you're doing exactly what I claimed you were doing earlier by using wokeism to distract from class politics.
My question for you is this. I interviewed a woman called Betty Yee a couple of weeks ago on my show. She's a candidate to be governor of California. And she endorsed in my interview gender-neutral Olympics when it comes to Los Angeles. Now, that to me is where the woke mind virus takes you, to complete and utter insanity. Because if there was a gender-neutral Olympics, and this woman might be governor of this state.
Does she have any control over the Olympics or the policies of the Olympics?
Wait a minute.
Is she impacting?
I'm talking about the mindset that says that actually gender-neutral Olympics. Do you agree with me? Can we reach a point of agreement that would be absurd?
I don't. You
don't know.
It depends on the sport. It depends on the sport.
She specified
some sports.
She specified track and field.
But guess what? I don't care what some.
You don't care about women losing.
No. This is a governor's position. This is a state representative.
Okay.
Who is it? A mayor?
What's your opinion?
Dude, honestly, it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, because this person has no institutional power.
Fine.
And this is exactly what I mean. When you champion Elon Musk and you're like, oh my God, he's correctly identifying the woke mind virus and doing X, Y, and Z, you're distracting from the very real issue that we have an unelected billionaire.
You're now distracting.
No, this is...
Answer my question.
We exist in the conversation of a larger...
Evan, answer my question.
It depends on the sport.
Give me a sport where it would be fine.
Archery.
It's very good. Good to see you.
Christ, that's insufferable. goes Mason right after.
How are you?
Good to meet you, Piers.
Good to meet you. What's your name?
I promise Mason.
Mason.
I do not mean this as an insult.
No, please,
You
fire
seem
away.
way more comforting in person. Like you look taller on your show. Like, and you have this like very like.
I'm 6'1". What are you talking about?
I don't. When I saw you walk
you.
in, when I saw you walk in, I don't know. Maybe you just look like a giant on your show.
Well, thank you.
But yeah.
I don't know how to take that, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah. So I really want to make sure that we get our definitions correct.
This is really good for Mason. I don't know if you've seen his stuff with like Patrick Bet-David and other people he has debates with. He'll like start off with a compliment to get them kind of easy, and then just fucking ruthlessly to rip them to shreds.
Yes.
When you say that wokeism equals fascism, would you say that's like the claim diluted into like a small sentence?
Let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
And I've talked about this a lot in my book, Woke is Dead. And again, just to remind you, I come at this as a pissed off liberal who has nothing in common with the woke left and wants the woke left to actually come back to a more commonsensical, electable position, actually. And here's what I think about what wokeism became. It began in the 60s in Black American music. In its origin, a great thing. It was about raising awareness for social and racial injustice. By that criteria, I'm happy to say I'm woke. But that's not what's happened in the last few years. In the last few years, for a combination of reasons, one of which the pandemic sent everybody nuts. Everyone was at home drinking too much on the internet, firing off all their ridiculous views and just got into rabbit holes and so on. But we can leave that. But wokeism is supposed to be a celebration. I would think, agree.
Yeah,
hang on.
But Piers, you're the person in the center. Can I talk a little bit on my 3 minutes I get before I'm voted out?
I haven't made my point.
Okay.
Do you agree that it's supposed to be about liberalism, about being a liberal?
I would say that the idea of wokeism is kind of an evolution from a bunch of different terms that have been used to throw at the left specifically. So like before wokeism, it was critical race theory. Before critical race theory, it was social justice.
Right.
There's a lot that the right specifically, and I know you say that you're not the right.
Does it celebrate?
But it's a reactionary.
It's
a reactionary response towards the elevation of certain groups that has historically been silenced.
But does it celebrate liberalism?
I don't think so. I don't think it has to. I think a lot of it also has to talk about class solidarity, which typically is illiberal.
Let me give you a little Latin lesson. Because the Latin was liber, meaning free, and also the root of liberty, meaning the quality or state of being free, and liberalis, meaning courteous, generous, gentlemanly.
I love these definitions.
Wait a minute.
Can you describe?
You asked for a definition.
But can you describe
I'm
fascism?
giving you one.
That's really what I want to talk about.
I know what fascism is.
No,
wait, what is it then? Because enlighten me.
Can I finish telling you what liberalism is?
No, I know what liberalism is.
Well, you don't think you do.
Yeah,
Because
it
if you're
is.
a woke left, they don't understand what being a liberal actually means. I do.
What being a liberal...
I do. So let me explain to you. The definition of a liberal include one who is open-minded or not strict in the observance of orthodox, traditional, or established forms or ways, a person who's willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, favorable to or respectful of individual rights and freedoms,
this is a
and
definition
concerned
game.
with broadening general knowledge and experience. Now,
So here's the problem. He's playing the definition game, and there's a difference between being a philosophical liberal and a political liberal, okay? Supporting the system of neoliberalism and capitalism as the primary economic system and supporting reform over revolution, that's a different type of liberal than a philosophical liberal who is, in favor of, free speech and open dialogue and all the things that Piers mentioned. And he's blending the two together to try to say that that's kind of that's kind of there. I don't know. He's playing fast and loose with definitions, and we'll see what Mason says in response.
what part of that do you think the woke left have adhered to in the last 5 years?
But I need to know why is it fascism?
I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
So the woke left have basically said, we hate fascists, we hate Nazis. In fact, we think everyone we don't agree with is a fascist and a Nazi. Led by Donald Trump.
That's an insane
led by everyone who
generalization.
voted for Trump. Led by Charlie Kirk. Led by all these people.
Can I tell you what
Wait
I
let me
represent?
finish my point.
Okay.
Then
But
you can respond.
you're just spouting off
They're all a bunch
lies.
of fascists. They're all a bunch of Nazis. And I kept warning the woke left, as a pissed off liberal, stop over-demonizing people by using the word Nazi and Hitler and fascist. It is ridiculously self-harming to yourselves, and it leads actually to young deranged minds like the assassin of Charlie Kirk to actually put anti-fascism slogans on their bullets and to murder people for their speech, right? So wokeism, in the end, in the last few years, transformed from what was supposed to be a celebration of liberalism in many ways into a form of fascism. Why do I say that? Because it conditioned people that you either adhere to our narrow worldview And if you don't, we're going to shame you, vilify you.
Look, all the flags are up. I didn't even get to talk, Piers. Let me talk.
I'm going to let you respond. I'm
going to lose my time.
Cancel you, or in some circumstances, we're going to kill you for your free speech and opinions.
Okay.
And that is where it became, in my opinion, a very dangerous,
but it just sounds like
very deluded
trying
form of fascism.
It sounds like you're
which
trying
is
to,
ironic because wokies say they hate the fascists.
It sounds like you're trying to correlate fascism with authoritarianism, which is control of speech or control of how people interact or control of behavior.
Fascists do control speech.
Right, that can be a part of it, is the
And they do
authoritarianism.
kill you for your
But the
views.
specific part of fascism is specifically trying to preserve a hierarchy based on either shared ethnicity or shared culture. That is the idea of elevating
But the
one
woke
specific
left are their own
group
culture.
into the top. No,
Yes, you are.
So you're telling me that Hitler would have been wearing a BLM shirt, or Hitler would have been
No,
wearing
of
an
course he
Antifa?
wouldn't.
Because wokeism is not fascism. Fascism is specifically dealing with one particular group. They're elevating to the top of the hierarchy.
People who identify
That's what
as
we saw.
woke
That's what we
behave-
saw in fascist
they
Italy.
behave
That's what we saw
like-
in Nazi
but they
Germany.
behave
That's
like
what we saw
fascists.
in Imperial Japan.
But Mason, do you not-
none of that correlates with the elevation of particular groups that have historically been silenced, which is the idea of what progressivism is.
I hear you.
I reject the idea of wokeness just because wokeness, again, is used as that insult that is
think,
elevated from
honestly,
different insults that have been thrown in the past.
Respectfully, I think wokeism has become one of the worst scourges in the world.
Yeah, because I think
it's
that there's been a
become-
successful campaign to basically
led
attach
by the woke left.
No, it has been to attach all of these pejoratives to
Correct.
a
Woke means thing
idea
I
of
don't like.
emancipation from silenced groups. That's the idea. The
There's
idea
nothing
that
silent about
yes,
the woke
the idea
left.
that we should bring
You never
people to
stop
the table.
yapping,
That
any of you.
No,
Ever. You never stop
That's why I hear
howling.
so much about cancel culture, about how
do
everybody's
you know
getting
the best-
canceled
the
when they're
best-
millionaires with podcasts that talk about this shit every day.
The best quote I have in my book, Woke is Dead, and clearly it's still slightly alive here, but the best quote, I had an Australian woman come up to me in the streets in London, and she said, Mr. Morgan, do you mind if I just say something about these wokies? I went, sure. She said, they just want to suck all the joy out of life. And I went, God, you're so right. That's exactly what they do.
What is
You
the
are
joy that you're sucking
collectively-
out?
You are
Stop
collectively-
saying slurs
you
is
are-
sucking out the joy
No,
of life?
you are
You want to say slurs that bad?
I don't want to say slurs.
Well,
but you are,
that's like.
but you are collectively the most joyless group of people to ever walk
I'm pretty
on God's
joyful.
earth.
I'm smiling.
And my
I
advice
came in cracking jokes.
My
Piers.
advice is
I could get a beer with
my
you.
advice for all of you is
I think you need to relax a little
just
bit.
collectively a bit of. I know you love a bit of Zen. Zen, calm down, take a chill pill, right? See the funny side of life.
pretty chill.
Respect
Everyone
other
does
people's
that.
opinions.
Stop challenging me on my opinions and instead just agree with me and clap like seals. When you challenge me, it makes me feel sad, so I must think that you're sad. What the fuck are you talking about? My God.
Respect my right to have different opinions.
I think
to
that
you.
you've dressed this like nightmarish scenario around you, and then
It
you
is a
start cowering.
nightmare.
No, then you start cowering at the own demons that you set up. It's
Thank
funny
you. Literally, conservatism and Piers' version of liberalism is just making up scenarios in your own head and then getting mad at your own made-up scenarios. Thank you. Oh my God.
Like, are
you
the
see
wokies?
me cowering?
Are the
Am I
wokies
cowering
in
in this room?
You're saying they're the
I've
joyless
come and
people.
sat in the middle of 20
They-
hardcore.
They are
woke
joyless.
lefties.
They're ruining the joy of
Am I
life.
cowering?
They're sucking out the
Woo!
happiness. They're sucking out
The
the
wokies
happiness
are
of
around me.
society. That's the idea.
I don't
you're
cower.
saying, yeah, you're saying the happiness is being sucked out by woke people.
I think you're just a joyless bunch. You should lighten up a bit.
How?
That's an insane
Mason,
overgeneralization.
love it,
That's how I
Mason.
feel about British people, but good news.
Oh! That's crazy.
Hello.
There's Anne. Here we go.
I'm Anne.
Hi, Anne.
You're Piers.
I am Piers.
I do want to kind of touch on the last thing that you and Mason talked about. I think the idea that the woke left is just this soulless, joyless majority of the left, at least now is what you seem to be making it out to
I
be.
don't think it's the majority. It's the noisy part of the left.
Okay. I actually think I can agree with you there. I think it's a loud minority of what you're calling the woke left. I think what really wokeness comes back to is that idea of fighting for equality, speaking up for people who don't have a voice themselves, and advocating on their behalf for their rights. And I think that you don't.
Do you identify as a woman?
No, but I think that's
What do
tangential.
you identify as?
That's tangential to this conversation.
No, it's actually very relevant to what I'm about to say.
No,
So-
I don't think my identity is
Well, what
relevant.
do you identify
What if I
as?
started bringing up the fact that you're British and you're here talking to a bunch of Americans in America?
Great.
That would be completely irrelevant to this whole point.
It's very relevant.
We're talking about American
In fact, the last guy to
politics
sit
now.
at this desk used British as a slur against me. So, yes.
I mean,
absolutely fine. But I've risen
might have been
above-
justified.
I haven't run to my therapist. I've risen above the slur.
that's great. I'm
not
glad
going to
you
report him
seem
to.
very mentally
I'm not going to
fortified,
report
sure.
him to the authorities for using a racial slur. I've moved on.
That's great, but I just don't
my
think
point in asking you what you identify is that you're talking about equality. The wokeism is aligned to equality. And yet, where does that equality apply if, for example, and we've touched on this already, if you are a woman athlete in sport, where's the equality in having a biological man compete against you when they have a physical advantage?
Okay, look, I think, well, that kind of strays away from.
Do you think that's equal?
Do I think it's equal for men and women to play in sports if there's an advantage that's like far above a threshold?
Yes.
No, I don't think that.
And you
that's
understand
equal.
that's why we
But
separate the sexes in sport, because men have a physical advantage.
To an extent, we
Not
do.
to an extent.
So,
They
like,
just- they
In
just
certain
do.
sports, yes.
then answer the question about archery. What do you think about archery? Do you think that has to be a segregated sport?
I've read a report, and correct me, someone I'm sure will correct me on the internet. I read a report that if it was a gender-neutral Olympics, women may end up with 2 bronze medals in the entire Olympics.
Wait. Okay,
right?
so- but I think the point.
Yeah,
Hold
you say
on,
wait,
hold
just
on,
swimming,
wait,
track,
wait.
and weightlifting.
2
I
medals
think the
in
point.
the entire Olympic Games. In other words, it would be the
Look, I'm
destruction.
not advocating for
No, I'm just saying it would
completely
be
gender-neutral
it would be the
sports.
destruction of women's sport. That's why we separate the sexes, and that's why the issue matters.
Oh,
Sorry, lovely to meet you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you got no time to speak. Good lord. This format is messed up.
Excellent, nice suit.
It's a dude
Great to
from
meet you,
the
sir.
Shank
Nick.
episode.
Great to meet
nice
you.
to meet you.
So look, the prompt was about the equivalency between wokeism and fascism. The key difference.
Well, to be clear, the prompt actually, my real point is, if you want to brand everybody fascist, you can't behave like fascists yourself.
But the key difference is fascism uses the power of the state to impose their
so
opinions.
does the woke left.
Wokeism does not.
Oh, it does. When
Was
you-
anybody deported for being woke
When
during
you-
the Biden
no, no.
administration?
Here's my answer.
Does anybody get rounded up in the streets for their opinion? Did anybody get canceled because the FCC said you're being too woke?
Can I
that
answer?
doesn't happen.
Can I answer?
Of course.
Of course. Actually, the woke left have deployed the power of the state many times. Look at the pandemic. Look at the pandemic.
How is that wokeism?
I'll tell you how it's
Wait,
wokeism.
so diseases are woke now?
No, wokeism is where you take things which are not actually science-based, for example, the efficacy of masks, right? And by the way, I feel guilty of this myself. I'm not saying I'm whiter than white about
So
this.
masks are woke.
No, they can be. The woke mentality, I'll explain why. When a government says that if you're seen without a mask during a pandemic, you can be fined or punished.
Pierce, you're way too smart to believe this.
Wait a minute. I'm giving you the argument which I ended up accepting, right? Which is in a fast-moving pandemic, when the scientific advice changes so rapidly, I fell victim to this myself. I was very censorious of people. But you can't deny that the state had a mindset of you will conform or we will punish you. And it turned out they were making
That's
people...
simply
they were
not
making,
true.
It is true.
You may have felt
They were
uncomfortable
they
being
were-
unmasked in public because people would say, hey, be courteous of other people.
I didn't.
Nobody got fired.
I didn't.
Nobody lost their job. Nobody
Actually,
got
people did get
exiled.
fired and did lose their jobs.
No, all that stuff got
Yes.
overturned.
No, they
because
did.
we are a nation of laws.
People did get fired. They all lost their jobs for not wearing a mask. They were told they couldn't come to work.
To work?
Who?
Lost thousands of people.
Okay, so these
To
nebulous
be clear,
people lost their
Nick,
jobs.
to be clear, you don't think anybody lost their job in the pandemic for refusing to wear a mask
some people
or
did.
refusing to be vaccinated?
That's not woke. Jobs have security standards. Jobs have health standards. Like in a lot of places you have to conform to a dress code. Is it wokeness? Is it fascism that like you have to wear a uniform, that you can't show up naked? Like what? This is so stupid. I thought we were done with these idiotic arguments from the pandemic. Jesus Christ.
I think that people who were
They
in
were
public-facing
state-authorized
situations where they
mandates
could have
people.
easily taken a scientifically proven preemptive
It wasn't
measure.
proven.
Yes, it was.
No, it turned out not to be proven. That's my point. And yet the state, driven by a left-wing Democrat president,
So me
ordered people
telling
to
you
do it.
that you are spreading misinformation, that is not fascism. That is just me telling you you're wrong.
No, you're not telling me I'm wrong because I'm right.
Okay, no, you're just not. And we're not going to relitigate COVID. That's now years ago at this point. The key point is it fascism? It is not fascism. You gave your very long definition of liberalism. Wokeism is about everything on that list that you described as being
Really?
liberal.
Really?
It's about standing up for other perspectives.
think
it's
it's
about
about-
listening to other people that have not traditionally been listened to.
Oh, you don't listen to anybody.
Yes,
what are you
we
talking
do.
about? Of course you don't.
You said yourself, wokeism started about just acknowledging social problems. I think it's woke
That's
that
originally-
middle America's
yes.
jobs have been shipped overseas. That's woke to
Yeah.
recognize that there's larger social problems.
I don't dispute.
Police brutality,
Listen.
recognizing that there's a problem with the institution of policing. That's woke. It's not fascist.
Would you defund the police?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, well that's woke.
Not defunding the police is woke?
Calling for the police to be defunded is one of the worst things the woke, including Mamdani in New York.
This is like,
the new mayor of New York City called for the...
Your first prompt was
NYPD
toxic
to be
masculinity has
defunded.
always meant one thing. Now you're saying woke used to mean one thing, but now it means a different thing.
Yes.
So words only have one definition when they suit you.
No.
But when they don't suit you, they change and they can fluctuate.
Obviously, you said that wokeism is
Sorry, folks,
a form of liberalism, right?
watching this
You said
shit.
that.
Yes.
Everything I read.
Wokeism is a form of
and
liberalism.
yet, just to remind
Absolutely.
you, a person who is willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own. The woke left famously, I would say infamously, never accept anybody objecting to anything they say.
We confront bad
collective-
speech with better speech.
You confront bad speech with better speech. No, you don't.
Like denying the efficacy of vaccines, and I'm telling you that's wrong.
No,
I'm not saying you should be canceled or you should be in prison for that.
Actually, if you want my honest view, I do not think the efficacy of masks was ever proven. In fact, I think most of the evidence now suggests they were pretty pointless.
No.
Secondly, on vaccine...
No, it depends on the fucking mask. Okay, this is the problem. KN95 masks were the most effective. The type of cloth masks that people were wearing, that like the ones that were fabric and not even the medical ones, the blue, like the surgical masks, those did have some efficacy, of course. They did help to stop the spread. However, it is the case, this is true, that some of the cloth masks, things like that, just got dirty and they did not do a good job preventing the spread of viruses. And particularly, I was reading a study about, there were some things like, I don't know if you saw those neck gaiters that go over your mouth. They can actually be worse because when you cough or something like that, it can split up the particles into smaller amounts. So if you have a poor quality mask, that's going to be ineffective. If you wear it incorrectly, that's going to be ineffective. But it says nothing about the efficacy of N95 masks, of KN95 masks, and of those blue surgical masks you get at a pack of 100 at CVS. Those actually are effective, and that's what the literature shows. But Piers is taking the small minority, or the studies that suggested that, yeah, some of the ones that were handmade masks at home, yeah, those actually aren't that effective. They aren't. That is true, but then he's using that once again. Mott and Bailey, you see it everywhere. He's using that one claim, that very defensible claim, that yeah, there were some forms of masks, some like washable, reusable masks that weren't really that effective, and using that to, defend this larger claim that masks in general were not effective, when that's not the claim.
I think they saved millions of lives, but I do think it was completely misleading of the government
Wait,
here
hold on. You
and
think
the
that
government
masks
millions
saved...
of lives, but they were pretty pointless. Secondly, on vaccines, I think they saved millions of lives, but I do think it was completely misleading of the government here and the government in the UK and other countries when they stated as a scientific fact that if you had the vaccine, you couldn't transmit the virus.
The measure was whether the healthcare system would be overwhelmed.
Wait a minute.
No, they didn't say they couldn't transmit it. No. This is false. This is just a lie. Again, he's correct. If you get vaccinated, you are less likely, when you get the COVID vaccine, to less likely to have a higher viral load, which means you're less likely to spread the virus. Okay, and you're less likely to be hospitalized because of it. That was the scientific consensus. Not that you will not transmit the virus. Okay, people get things wrong sometimes. Yeah, and if someone said that, they were wrong. Okay, and no one's saying that science is perfect, and everyone within the scientific community was saying the absolutely correct thing. Okay, but there's still a scientific consensus that needs to be respected, and just because there is disagreement within the scientific community among certain things doesn't mean that science is entirely useless, and you can pull your own conclusion out of your ass because some experts agree, and therefore everything's fair game. Jesus Christ.
Did not collapse, it worked. That was all it was supposed to be. It wasn't that no one would ever get sick
I'm making the point that when you issue government mandates and it turns out you were wrong, for example, when they said you cannot transmit the virus if you have the vaccine, it turned out that wasn't true. Do you accept that?
I do accept that.
So there were lots of things they said which turned out to be wrong. So
I would rather err on the side of caution with a disease that killed millions of people around the world. That's just me.
Hey, Nick. As I did. And in fact, I was very censorious to people who took the position I'm now taking against you.
Again, it's not being censorious. We're having this debate in a public forum. I'm not saying you're not allowed to speak about this. I'm just going to tell you you're wrong.
I'm making the point that I was wrong at the time about those particular parts of it. We can agree that the vaccines broadly, I think, worked. But we can also agree the scientists got it wrong about masks. They got it wrong about the efficacy of transmission with vaccines. These are things we should be able to come together on.
Hey, this is
great. That's to me, right? Great to meet you. Really good to see you.
Hey. Okay, yep. Here we go.
Need around the political part makes sense. Not just let's get it.
My next surrounding claim is that gender-neutral pronouns are pointless.
Jesus, dude. Why the fuck do you care about this so much? Oh my God, who gives a fuck if someone wants to go by they, them?
Good, thank you.
I'm Jeremiah. Okay, so, I bet you didn't know that you were coming to a therapy session. I am a therapist.
Great.
Yes, finally.
Finally.
But
a missing link in my life.
Yes. So I would argue that pronouns, people being wanting to be referred to the pronouns that they want, actually aid them in their self-esteem improving and their validation and affirmation in life.
Yeah, fine. Oh my god. Sorry for pausing, guys. This prompt is so fucking stupid. Why am I gonna have to sit here and listen to 25 people debate whether we should call someone they, them? I don't give a shit. People are dying. People don't have the food they need to survive. The Trump administration is snatching people off the street and deporting them to a concentration camp in El Salvador where they are abused. I don't give a shit about gender-neutral pronouns. Oh my god. Evan is so right in his assessment that literally these are distractions from what else is happening. It's that simple.
Then their lives obviously are lacking a lot of other things. It's like nobody cares about pronouns.
What would their life be lacking?
What pronouns are yours?
I'm he, him.
Okay, so you're a bloke.
Yes.
Okay, why do you need to call yourself he, him? I know what you are. You're a man.
Right, but I think that you're talking about people that want to be called.
Do you feel affirmed by the fact you call me he, him?
I'm talking about other pronouns, so like they, them, z.
Well, they,
right?
them. All right, they, them.
Yes.
There's one person saying, call
okay.
me they, them.
But,
correct.
Okay,
they, them is a plural.
No, right? It's not. It's not. This is so fucking false, okay? We use they, them all the time to refer to someone when we don't know their gender. Give my compliments to the chef. They did a great job. Oh, hey, I'm bringing this wallet to the front of the store. You know, someone must have left their wallet. Can you let them know that they left their wallet? And this person came running to the front and they were like, thank you so much for finding my wallet. I'm so glad that you found it. And I told them, I'm like, I'm so glad. They actually said it was their grandfather's wallet. And they were so glad that I found it in front of them and I was able to give it to them. Realize how simple that is? It's so fucking simple. It does not inherently mean plural. Okay, these fucking grammarians going on a fucking tirade. That's not even true. Okay? Oh my god.
How can you be more than one person?
Guess what?
You're
What
not.
about someone
I mean, call me stupid, but
you're not. You are stupid.
Someone that's non-binary who can
You're stupid.
engender
What does
two
non-binary
pronouns.
mean?
I'm explaining it right now. Who can engender both masculine and feminine traits, and that is their third gender. If that's what they want to be called, why is it so hard for you and other people to call them what they want to be called?
I just think it's all bullshit.
But I'm asking you, why can't you just call them what they want to be called if that's what they want to be called?
Because I don't want to.
So how are you being empathic if you don't want to call them what they want to be
I
called?
don't care.
But so empathy.
Again,
empathy is a muscle that you could develop in therapy. So if you went to therapy, you'd have developed that muscle.
I can't think of anything I'd rather less develop.
Empathy?
Well,
Jeez.
when one human being says to me, call me they, them, I laugh. It's absurd. There's one of them.
And that shows that you're not empathic.
I asked a non-binary person who was a guest on my show recently, what does non-binary mean? She couldn't explain it.
Okay,
It was like she told you.
I'm not gonna complain to understand all this shit because I don't. Okay, I'm a guy. Okay, I've not really had questions about my gender, so I'm gonna defer to people who identify as these things to explain them. Okay, and if they say stuff that I disagree with, I'll push back against it. But like, I also don't think like, to my understanding, these terms mean the same thing to everyone. No, they probably don't. What it means to be non-binary to one person is probably different than another person. So of course you can't give you, or whatever person can't give you an exact definition of whatever these issues are, just generally.
So that's her, but the thing is, why don't you get someone on your show who can explain
How many
it?
pronouns are there?
Oh my god. How many names are
multiple.
there?
How many?
How many fucking names are there, dude? What? How many pronouns are there in the world? Checkmate. This is so fucking stupid.
I don't know. I'm not an expert in that.
The last count is there are 74 official ones. Do you know?
No, okay, you're gonna say cat and dog. I'm a cat. I'm a dog.
No.
There's he,
I'll
him,
come to those.
she,
No.
ze, they,
Probably
them. Probably kind of like those.
Talk about gender pronouns.
Yes,
right?
so am I.
There are 74. One of them is astral gender, an affinity with space.
No, where are you getting this information?
Official genders.
Literally
Google it.
The official gender department, guys. Bro, the gender department just dropped new pronouns, bro. You gotta learn up. There's a test on the pronouns, dude. You're gonna have to do. Oh my god.
Have you had someone on your show who said, I'm an astral whatever?
Yes, I actually got one on.
No, and did you pay that person to go on? I mean,
utter lunacy, the whole thing. It's like kids identifying as cats at school.
No.
You know what I would do with
That
them?
does not happen.
It does happen.
That is some bogus like media presentation.
No,
that does not happen.
No, it has happened. Read my book, Woke is Dead.
Yeah,
it's all in there.
I don't know how to read that.
There was a phenomenon called the furries. You know what it was?
Furries? Yeah,
Kids
they're
would go to
still
school
So
and say,
I know what
I'm
furries are,
identifying
and
as a
furries
cat.
are not a gender. That's its own kind of lifestyle. It's like people in outfits.
But this is where, with all due respect, this is where limitless self-identity takes you. It takes you to the absurd. For example, do you believe? Let me ask you.
Okay, go.
Do you believe that you can identify as anything you like?
No.
Oh, what are the
No.
exceptions?
I think that most people that when they think about their gender identity, it's he, him, she, her, they, Z. Those are the ones that
What's
people
Z?
are. Z is oh God. Now I can't explain it. No, but Z.
You've no idea, have you? It's all complete baloney. What's Z? I've no idea. And you're the guy trying to defend this nonsense. Here's my other question for you, right?
I
there's-
think we're out
it
of
used to be
rhetorical moment for him.
LGBT, then it was LGBTQ. What is it now? What's the
It's LGBTQ plus, or it could be LGBTQIA2S, Two Spirit.
Right, and what does it stand for?
Two Spirit or the Two
No,
Spirit?
the whole thing. LGBT, read the whole thing.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, LGBT, trans, queer, or questioning, LGBTQIA, intersex, asexual, two-spirit, it's the two-spirited individuals.
You forgot pansexual and asexual.
Well, so pan, I did say asexual, pan is not in there.
Jesus Christ.
Nice
Nice to meet you. Hello.
Hello, Piers.
What's your name?
I'm Jenny.
Jenny, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, we wanted to talk about, I guess your initial claim is that pronouns are silly or purposeless.
I think we've just established how silly they are. I mean, even the people defending them can't remember what they mean.
Right. So, I just wanted to touch on two things here. So, I don't think anyone is denying biological sex assignment at birth, right? Whatever your doctor determines your...
Well, it's not about doctors assigning anything, is it? You're either born with certain genitals or you're not.
Right, but a doctor has to look at
when
it.
you're
to
a male
determine
or
that.
female.
Right, understanding.
Do you accept
So,
that?
Yeah, I do think that we've got
this
two
whole
sexes.
phrase assigned at birth, what does it mean?
That means a doctor has looked at you as
No,
a baby.
they look at you and they just see what I look at you and see. I don't have to be a doctor to know what you're assigned at.
Yeah, I do think assigned at birth can sometimes be a little bit, what's the right word? A little bit misleading. You know, I think that sex is not assigned at birth. It's discovered at birth. You know, male and female, some people are assigned intersex because there's ambiguous genitalia in a very small amount of cases. But yeah, I don't know, like assigned male at birth, you were born male at birth, or you were born female at birth. That's kind of, yeah. So I don't know. I don't really care that, once again, this is an issue that I'm not going to spend hours and hours debating because I think it's stupid. Gender neutral pronouns are pointless. No, this entire fucking debate is pointless. Talk about things that actually matter. Once again, you're using it as a distraction, as a shield against actual issues that tangibly matter.
Right, but okay.
You're just born. Do you accept that the vast majority of people ever in the history of planet Earth are born male or female?
Yeah, I do believe,
Then
but
can
there
we stop
is
the phrase
some...
assigned at birth by a doctor?
That's
Literally,
what a doctor
I've
does,
had 4
though.
babies. They look at them and they go, oh, it's a boy, it's a girl. That's it.
Right, so a
What you
doctor
then decide
determines
to call
that and
yourself,
writes that on your
it's
birth
entirely down to you.
certificate.
But there's no one
Okay,
assigning
can I
anything.
finish my point, please?
Yeah, but they're not assigning anything.
Can I
It's a
finish
ridiculous
my point,
phrase.
please?
Feel
Thank
free.
you. So, whatever your biological sex is determined by a doctor upon your birth, I don't think anyone's denying that.
Right.
However, gender is a construct that is how we express ourselves.
How many genders are there?
Jesus.
For me, I think that it's a scale, and however you want to express yourself
many
is
names
up
are
to
there in
you.
the world?
Can I
But
express myself as anything I want?
Go for
Well,
it. Black
let me
lesbian.
finish my
He's
point.
going to say black lesbian.
Okay, so
this is his
for
thing.
example, we talk about masculinity, we
Calling
talk
it right
about
now.
femininity, and some days I feel like I want to feel more feminine, so
Here we
I
go.
wear a dress, or I do things that are socially
Okay.
constructed
Come on,
and
Piers.
designated as
Be a
feminine.
black lesbian.
Or maybe other people have like this
Be a
idea
black
of
lesbian.
masculinity, so they present themselves in that way.
Let's
So
go.
gender is different from biological sex in that it's how you express yourself. To me, somebody's gender expression
Piers
and
is
how they
waiting
want
to
to
get
be
it in.
addressed
I'm
is
calling
no
it right now.
different
This is his
than
shtick.
using somebody's name.
Right.
Because I write, so when we use pronouns, it's with purpose, right?
What are your pronouns?
She, her.
So you're a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
So why do you need to call yourself she, her?
Well, that's just how you address
Why?
women.
So why use them as pronouns?
But pronouns are just used in English
We never
language.
used to. This is just only
Yes, it
started
is.
10
What
years
are you
ago.
talking about? There's
Nobody
always been
ever.
pronouns in
Pronouns has always been used in the
Yes.
English language.
I'm talking about the new cavalcade of extra pronouns.
I think we're making it out to be so much more than it really is.
If you're a man, you're a he, him. That's it.
Okay.
Right? The rest of it is just a complete construct of the woke left.
Okay,
And none
a
of
construct,
it, as
like
we've
you
already
said.
established, none of it makes sense to the point that none of you can even explain half of it.
No, and I'm still explaining it. So
How many genders are there?
I'm still talking about gender
No,
expression.
but can you
and
tell me how many genders
There's not a. There's
I'm
not a
talking
fine.
about-
How many are there?
I personally don't care. I don't know.
Do you know a number?
No, because
There's
for
not a number. How
biological
many
sex,
names are there?
maybe we can talk about that in
do you believe in
binary.
the concept of limitless self-identity?
No. So if
So
you
what's
would
the,
let
where's
me,
the limit?
if you would let me continue.
Where's the limit?
If you would let me continue. Thank you. So what I'm saying though is that when you refer to somebody in their pronouns that they ask for, it's just general English language how we use it. There are plenty of languages out there that don't even have pronouns because that's just how the language works. So if you can speak a different language and not have to refer to somebody by their pronouns and know exactly who you're talking to, then I don't think pronouns are a big deal.
I hear you, and you phrased it very nicely. But my point being, I think it's got completely out of hand.
Sure you
when there are
think it has. Facts over
74
feelings.
cited genders, if you Google it, as
According
the
to
official
who?
list of genders.
What do
and
you
one
mean
of
official? Where is this shit official? Like what? The Department of Gender Registry has introduced that there are 4 new genders that you must recognize or risk imprisonment. Jesus Christ.
4 cited genders, if you Google it, as the official list of genders, and one of them is an affinity with space, I'm calling bullshit. When you have LGBTQ and it now has so many letters that even experts in the field of the LGBT community acronym cannot remember what they all mean, it is ridiculous. And when it comes to limitless self-identity, I had this debate with someone on International Women's Day on my show Uncensored. And I had 2 guests, one was white, one was black. There's a relevance to that. And we talked about this, and I said, right, 2 women. I said, do you believe in limitless self-identity? And the wokey of the 2 guests said, I do. And you have to respect what people want. And she said, yes. I went, okay, in that case, I, on International Women's Day, Piers Morgan, am now identifying as a black lesbian.
There we go.
And the black panelist burst out laughing because she knew what I was doing, which is taking this argument to its logical conclusion, which is once you make it limitless, society just collapses because...
No, it doesn't. Fine. There's a really good way to respond to this. Fine, okay, Piers. Every time you refer to Piers Morgan in the future, call him a black lesbian. Call him it. He'll get annoyed with that shit so fast. Piers Morgan, the black lesbian icon. Do it. He's not sincere. He's not sincere in his identity. He's just trying to be ridiculous. Okay? Who gives a fuck? Yeah, Piers Morgan, the black lesbian. Jubilee should have titled this video, 1 black lesbian versus 25 woke people. They should have fucking done it. They should have done it. Piers would have probably been mad. Yeah, absolutely. That's what you do. You just, fine, cool, okay, who cares? Go for it. Okay? Jesus.
Anyone can say that they're anything they want.
If I may interject
and you
with
would
that.
say to me, if I said to you, I'm a black lesbian, what would you say?
I would say that you're conflating this idea of limitless, like whatever, gender expression
Self-identity.
or self-identity.
Yeah.
I already said I don't agree with that.
Yeah, but you didn't say where the limit is.
Right. So for me personally, and what I believe is that there are scientific things that we can agree to, like biological sex, right? But gender expression is a cultural
I know,
and societal.
you said that, but where is the limit
Right.
to what you can
so
identify?
you can't identify as another race because that's just genetically not correct.
Right.
Right. So
there are limits to this.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm really curious where the woke limit is on self-identity.
Gender is a social construct. A social construct means we made it up. Right?
Yes.
Exactly. So
it's completely
so
invented.
therefore, you can have whatever identity that you want because you've decided to create that.
Yes,
for
but
you.
my point, the
But
point
is
of
that
my...
not- but why is that a problem?
No, here's the problem. It's got so out of control. Nice to meet you.
But nice to meet you.
There's Ryan.
How are you?
Ryan.
Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Piers. So
actually, I have my preferred pronouns.
Okay, what are they?
Hot, hotter, hottest.
I can call you that. I can
Great.
honor that. Yeah.
But throughout the conversation,
Sure.
I expect
okay.
you to call me
all right. Hottie, is that okay?
that. No, I prefer hottest.
Hottest?
Yeah.
Okay, I
That's what
take
I'm
that
feeling
personal
today.
because I thought I was. So look, I think you do this really great job of taking the far edge use case and writing a book about it. I think what you're trying to do is take this thing that is explicitly a one-dimensional, two-dimensional range and adding things like this random, star thing and then your elephants and all that stuff. Nobody who is serious.
It's not random.
Oh, fine.
These
Fine.
things
I tell you what,
exist.
you're right. If you can Google it, it must be the mainstream.
No. If you read my book, you'll see these are specific examples.
No, I got it. No, I understand. You were really good at taking anecdotes and making them data. If that was how science worked,
Not data, just facts.
Well,
For example, there was a school in the north of England called the Altrincham School for Girls, where everybody there is a girl. That's why they call it Altrincham School for Girls. And then because of the trans activist campaign, eventually they banned teachers and pupils from referring to each other as girls, even though everybody there was a girl.
I think the vast majority of people who care about this at all would say that's an edge case, and most of us think that's weird.
Great. Then we agree.
That's the vast majority of
And I
people.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So explain to me why you think personal pronouns actually matter.
Well, you know, the question of gender has gone back for thousands of years. There were over 150 distinct civilizations in North America before colonialism that had more than two genders. So this is what we in the real world like to call an open question that evolves over time. I don't think that the fact that the question exists means there's some systemic sickness within society, and I don't understand why the fact that something that maybe you're not that familiar with or is an open question makes you uncomfortable.
My argument is only that it's pointless.
Well, I mean, what
are your pronouns?
He, him.
Right, so everyone I've asked has basically said she, her, he, him.
Yeah.
Well, in my day, it was just male and female, man and woman.
Got it.
So
well, here's the thing that you and I don't, but it's not for us to get. It's not ours to get. That's the point.
No, but my point is I shouldn't be compelled to use absurd pronouns.
Fine. Listen, whatever you call absurd, fine. Whatever you choose not to say is fine.
You to call me
Here's
hottest.
the thing. You could go around
Even
and call
though
me...
I say my preferred pronoun is hottest, you
as
don't
a
have
gay
to
man,
call me that.
listen, as a gay man, you could go around calling me...
Adjective.
And that would be okay. You would be allowed to do that. You're not going to get arrested. You're not going to go to prison. You can do whatever you want. Exactly. It would be offensive and unkind. It would not be okay, but you could do it. What I'm saying is you don't have to accept other people's pronouns. Yes, well, you've been saying a lot. I'm referring to things you've said.
You're putting words into my mouth.
Okay, fine, correct me.
No, you should let me say what I think about you.
Okay, go for it. I can't wait.
I just found your terminology offensive.
Okay.
As object.
Is that all you were going to say?
Obviously, look, we can agree that when there are derogatory terms like that, it's offensive.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right. And so if I find it offensive that you refuse to honor someone's they, them pronouns, I'm allowed to be offended by that. You're allowed to be offensive.
Sure.
That's a thing that can happen out in the world. That doesn't make you right.
No, but we had a crazy phase, which I talk about in the book, where companies, big companies, people were getting fired for not using people's pronouns.
I don't think, look.
Do you agree that's insane?
Hold on, listen. Anytime change happens, there are going to be blips
but do you
of
agree
extremity.
Do you agree nobody should be fired?
I don't think anybody should get fired, no.
Nobody should be fired. So we agree. This is good. It's a good...
Yeah, no, but the vast majority of people think that, Piers. I mean, for the same reason that most of us call ourselves woke, tongue-in-cheek, where there's minutia, there's little details, little to the side cases, and then there's what's common. And what's common is people respect people's pronouns, but it is uncommon for an employer to fire someone for refusing to put them in their email signature.
Actually, it's more common than you think. And actually became a very insidious part of wokeism. I mean, which is what I call the cancel culture. We're going to come to that as a separate question. But this whole idea that if you don't conform to a particular worldview, you have to be
I understand that. Look, there are people on the far extreme of both the left and the right who want to get rid of people who think differently than they do. That's a both sides thing.
On both sides, I agree.
But 95% of us are inside of those sides. This is not like a systemic problem with our whole human society. This is a far edge use case. So if you want to write a book and you want to go around talking about it like it applies to all of us, I just want to be clear, you're taking a molehill and making a mountain out of it.
Sounds like you pretty well agree with me.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with the principle of some of these things can be extreme. What I disagree with is how you take it and you make it this permanently awful bad thing, black and white, binary, it's bad, and you want to dismiss out of hand anyone that might be close to it.
I think wokeism as a mindset is honestly, I think it's a joyless, hectoring, censoring, virtue signaling load of old crap. I do. And I say that.
I hear you.
And like I say, I don't say that because I'm on the right, because I'm not. The right will tell you I'm not one of them. Yeah. Ask them what they think about things like gun control and abortion and things like that.
I get it. No, your contrarian thing is a great brand. And I believe it's authentic. I believe it's authentic.
I genuinely sit in the middle on this stuff.
Well, fine. But here's the thing. I want to just be clear that what we're talking about are holding against the whole of society edge cases. I have been a grassroots activist for 15 years. I also do stand-up comedy with all kinds of people. People say things that are offensive all the time, and every once in a while, in all these places, you run into one or maybe two people who are these joyless, joy-sucking, nothing is okay people. But all of us, the vast majority of us who give a shit about any of these things, find those people to be unusual.
But my point,
they get cornered over there,
listen, I hear you,
and they're over there, and we don't do. And that's why when you say wokeism is like that, we all go bullshit, Piers, because that's not how we are.
Listen. I agree that all-encompassing, verdicts on a group of people is often a bit misleading. If you're clearly not an extreme progressive wokey, right? You're somewhere probably a bit more normal, which is, like I said at the start.
That's not what my dad says. But.
No, but I can see you probably are. You probably got quite a common sense valve in you, right?
God, I hope so.
And that's all I want really is common sense.
Oh, Lord.
Good luck.
Hello.
Hi, Sophie. Nice to meet you.
Sophie, nice to meet you.
So,
what are your pronouns?
she, her.
Great, another one.
But
so actually, oddly, ironically, none of you have anything but the standard old pronouns, which we never needed because everyone knew you were a woman or a man.
Yes, however, my best friend goes by gender neutral pronouns, and I am an 18-year-old high school student.
So what do you mean by that?
They go by they, them.
They, them, but there's only one of them.
Yes.
Explain that.
They, them can refer to a singular person. Like
They can't, can it?
I feel like if somebody comes to my house and drops off a package at the door, I say, oh, they left the package there.
Thank you.
I'm not like, oh, he left the package there. She left the package there. I say they left the package there. And that's only referring to one person.
Good point.
So I'm an 18-year-old high school student, and many of my friends are trans or go by gender neutral pronouns.
Are they, though?
Yes.
Are they? Because what's happening is quite interesting. Apparently, the number of people... No. The number of people... Well, I'm talking about a group of people. All the reports are suggesting in the last year there's been a dramatic collapse in the number of young people at colleges and universities identifying as trans, which would confirm to me that the thing was a fad, which got completely out of hand. And the people I actually felt sorry for were the people who are genuinely trans, in some cases go through years of surgery.
Okay, I want to first focus on this. This whole idea of, if less people are identifying as something, it must mean that it's like less of a real thing. Maybe that we have an administration that's increasingly hostile towards LGBTQ people, particularly trans people, and identification on governmental documents in which trans people literally, in certain cases, won't be able to internationally travel because if they appear in such a way that does not match the sex on their birth certificate, they will be questioned and potentially not allowed entry or passage into the United States, in or out of. Yeah, that could maybe cause people to not identify with that, even if it's a true identity. Or this whole idea, oh my God, it's such a social contagion. The fact that people are identifying with different gender identities. I'd like to point you to something called the graph of left-handedness in the United States. The fact that, there are very few people in the early 20th century and before who were left-handed, mainly because they were fucking beaten in school if they wrote with their left hand. So there were very few people who, identified or, admitted publicly that they were left-handed because they were shamed for it. So now that we have a society that, previously has been more accepting and is unfortunately going in the opposite trajectory, we see that there is a lack of people who are identifying it. So think about this in terms of left-handedness. Imagine that we had a much more open society in which people could be publicly left-handed and they would not be chastised or literally abused for it. And then suddenly we have an administration that is very toxic towards left-handed people, and wants to root them out and wants to, suppress them in their rights. Wow, what a shock. Less people are now publicly being left-handed. The same principle applies. This is not that strange of a concept. Okay.
They feel they're born to the wrong body, the wrong sex, and so on. I feel like they have been lost in all this conversation. They've been made to feel ridiculous, they've been mocked and so on. And I feel badly for those people because actually, a lot of this trans stuff, particularly with young people at colleges, has been a fad. And, there was a school near me, near where I grew up in East Sussex in England, where 900 kids in one school were apparently trans.
Yes,
oh, off. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
I understand. However, I think it's about respect, and it's about garnering respect to the people who are, you're talking to a person. And if they want to be called they, them, by the pronouns that they choose.
And if I want to be called a black lesbian?
Okay, but that gets into a race conversation. That's not what we're talking about.
If I want to be called, let me think of something.
No, we're talking about they, them. We're talking about gender neutral pronouns. That was the debate topic.
If I want to be hot or hottest.
Okay,
those aren't pronouns,
that would be your choice.
Would you respect that?
Yes, I would.
So you would call me that?
Yeah, because that is your pronouns.
Don't bite this bullet. She should not bite this bullet. Okay? That's not a pronoun. It's an adjective. These people don't understand grammar. They claim they, them is multiple and it's plural, and I will not stand for using gender incorrectly, or not gender, grammar incorrectly. The fact, beside the fact that it's literally grammatically correct, and then go on. You have to call me hottest. It's like Matt Walsh when he's like, you have to call me handsome and brilliant. Yeah, that's because adjectives and pronouns are not the same thing. Pronouns is a way that you identify. Adjectives are something people place onto you. This is not that.
So
Well, go on, then.
I feel
No,
like
you must call me that.
okay, but I'm referring to you.
Yes.
At the moment.
But address me in my preferred pronoun.
Another thing is
You got
that.
this. Sorry, you got
Okay,
it.
so hotter.
Okay, thank you. This could really catch
Language
on.
evolves. Language evolves over time.
You see how ridiculous that exchange was?
No.
It's preposterous. Sorry, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Mason is back. All right.
Welcome back.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
So I think that like the fixation on this really shows your emotional connection to the idea of pronouns more than like other people's want to self-identify. Because for me, if like I've had people come up to me, I work in a lot of queer spaces in nonprofit work, and I've had people who say they're they, them, I misgender them on accident. I call them, you know, if they look very femme presenting, I'll call them she, her, and they'll be like, actually it's they, them. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I messed up. They're not chastising me. They're not pissed at me. They're not gonna like victimize me afterwards.
Great.
And that's a majority of people. If there are people that do feel a sense of defensiveness, it's because there's been a propaganda campaign nationally that's been pushed on these people specifically to target and victimize them. So my big thing is, if we want people to be less defensive and less emotional, why are we fixating so much on it? Why are the people that say they hate pronouns so much talking about pronouns every chance they get?
I just think when we get to 74 different ways of identifying your
so
gender,
tired of this
and one of them
conversation.
is an affinity with the stars, you should all accept it's got ridiculous. And my point of saying things like, I identify as a black lesbian or whatever, is simply to show that if you allow things to be limitless, it goes to ridiculous places. We've had that Rachel Dolezal story. Do you remember that? Was the white woman pretending to be black, right? It was absolutely absurd. And she led this whole life as a fake person. It's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it's fueled by a mindset that says anyone can, you know, they use the phrase express themselves, but actually, if your gender identity and you want people to use this, if we get to 74, 80, 100, right, it becomes, as I point out, completely pointless.
Yeah, but if you're someone who feels this like sense that you need to identify as hot and hottest, I'm just gonna call you Piers. Like that's really how it is.
Exactly my point.
Yeah. So my thing is,
you've answered my. That's it.
No, exactly,
No,
and that's what you can do.
No, you agree.
No, but you're going on a show and you're writing a book specifically highlighting these people. That's the difference.
If it's in this
I'm not making a big stink saying this is the degradation of society. I'm saying that this is somebody who's saying something that I don't totally understand.
I get it.
But just because I don't understand it, I can still respect them.
I know.
I don't have to punch down and specifically target them out.
Let me
That's
tell
the
you,
difference.
there are a million things more important in life than being concerned about how people call
Thank
you.
you.
Don't focus on it.
Why the fuck yes? Why do you have a prompt on this? Oh my god. You were given the opportunity to come on this show and talk about things you want to talk about, and you chose to make one of your 4 prompts about gender neutral pronouns, even though you think they're pointless. Oh my god.
Why are you writing a book about it? If there's millions of things to concern yourself with. Why aren't you talking about a genocide happening in Palestine? Why aren't you talking about actual victims that are going through hardship? You're writing a book about people who say astrogender, something I've never heard before, and I work in queer spaces.
Mate, time out. I literally do a show every night where I talk about the wars in Ukraine and Gaza and other major issues.
I'm just talking about this topic.
I'm talking about this because I think it was very interesting to me that Donald Trump got reelected. I was like, how has this happened? And I think it was partly immigration, it was partly the economy, and it was partly what the Democrats call the culture, and partly the culture wars, right? A lot of people were fed up with this.
I think it really was a big focus on the economy, and I think you're right there. And I think Trump's version of populism spoke to a lot of people who have been disenfranchised by
also
both
the
political
culture
parties.
war stuff, it did cut
It
through.
didn't, though.
Yes, it did.
That's not a big
focus. And I don't meet
focus.
anybody on the woke left who will admit it. None of you admit it.
Because if you talk about people's economic conditions, they're not going to give a shit of who their neighbors are and what their pronouns identify as.
Right.
They just want to be able to afford meals for their
So
kids
in a way,
and actually get health care.
Exactly. Hence why gender pronouns are pointless.
No, if a certain group of people feel more comfortable, that shouldn't be something we discriminate.
My final surrounding claim is that cancel culture is real and a serious threat to free speech.
All right, maybe we'll have some agreement here. I graduated from one of the most liberal universities in the country, and I can say that sometimes there is a free speech problem. So we'll see. We'll see how much I agree. I don't really want to agree with Piers Morgan, but we'll see. Maybe I'll agree with some aspects of this.
How are you?
Hey, Piers, I'm Tyler. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, Tyler.
Okay, so I read your book.
Yes, what did you think?
So I liked it. I liked that you gave the movie American Fiction the praise it deserved. But so on page 81, you talk about how you're a liberal who respects free speech. And on that page, you say the Republican Party, and I quote, is ferociously free speech. Yet Donald Trump 2 months ago signed an executive order banning the burning of the American flag.
Yeah,
so how does that work?
I don't agree with him.
Yeah, but then how are they ferociously free
Well,
speech?
I don't agree with him.
Yeah, but no, on your book on page 81, you said they're ferociously
I would say
free
in the
speech.
last few years, the Republicans have been more pro-free speech than the woke left. That doesn't mean occasionally, as we
Neither
saw with
of
the
them
Jimmy Kimmel thing, it doesn't mean that occasionally they don't do stuff which I think is hypocritical because actually it's not supporting free speech.
No, this is the problem with this. I agree that I think some people on the left, especially the far left and people who attend colleges and universities, can be out of touch and demand for the censoring of people whose views don't align with them, or they believe that there shouldn't be people who are allowed to speak because of their supposed views or their alignment with certain positions on the right. And I disagree with that. However, to argue that the severity of them is the same, when on one side, students on the left and even some institutions are punishing individuals and not allowing them a platform to speak, that is different than the Trump administration deporting someone for their speech in Mahmoud Khalil. So this is the biggest false equivalency of false equivalencies. And the fact that he's focusing more on the first one and not enough time, this is the whole thing of like wokeism and fascism. Okay? Can there be some elements of authoritarianism and censorship that exists on both sides? Yes. But one of them is rooted, as Mason was talking about, in an ethnic identity that is under threat. Okay? And desiring for people to be deported. Okay? I don't know anyone on the woke left, one who has institutional power to literally deport people out of this country and remove them for their speech. But also on the right, that absolutely does happen. And they want people who say things like they want Trump just called for the members of Congress who, released a video telling the military they don't have to follow illegal orders, which is true. Totally true. They want them to be executed. I think it's a bit of a bigger issue to free speech than some uppity college students who are just completely offended that someone is coming to campus and wants to get their speech taken down. Not that I agree with it. Look, I dealt with my fair deal of that at college, but no, not the same.
So I agree with you. So what executive order did the Democrats pull where they were banning anything to the regard of burning the American flag? I don't think it happened.
I'm talking about, well, I don't agree with it. So what do you want me to say?
But your book says they're ferociously free speech. It's a contradiction.
They are. They have
Should
been.
we just tear page 81 out of your book then?
No.
No?
No. You can be ferociously free speech and still occasionally do things which are hypocritical.
So, okay, like
Well, you can.
Well, like yourself. But
Whoa, where have I been hypocritical?
So on page 245.
Wow,
I like the book. What can I say?
Are you like one of those weird little mentalists who just remembers every single word of every page?
I'm just a massive Celebrity Apprentice fan, so I need
Oh,
no idea.
really?
Oh, you killed Trace Adkins in the end. I really appreciate that.
I actually bumped into him in Beverly Hills recently.
But so on page 245, you talk about how you are against, if you were king for a day, you would ban anybody who participates in cancel culture online.
Yes.
And you would call them out. However, Michael Knowles, a guest you have on all the time, has recently said that he wants to ostracize certain people from society that when they say negative things. He was on this show and said if you wave the pride flag, you should be in jail for that. That is against the First Amendment and that is absolutely cancel culture.
Well, I don't agree
Yet
with it.
you never call him out on that. No, you've never done it. You have him on the show all the time.
I will, next time he's on, I will call him out on it.
You promise me?
You have a bet.
So like right now though, it just seems to me.
Anyone who watches my show will know I call out everybody.
No, you don't. You never call him Michael Knowles. He's done it multiple times.
You've just pointed that out to me. I will call him out on it.
It just sounds like you're not.
Michael, if you're watching, I'm going to ask you about that. You better have your defense.
So then what has the left done?
I'm not ideological. I don't come at it from left or right.
What has the left done in the past 10 years that it's been worse than trying to ban the burning of the American flag?
Well, what's the woke left done? They're trying to ban everybody in every
Really? They
single
try to make
thing.
it illegal? Name one example. That's just an
not
example.
the flag.
So yeah, but what legislation do they put forward? Nothing?
No, but
They don't have power. Thank you.
What's more being canceled than being put in prison?
Well, okay, let me give an example.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Graham Linehan.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not bringing it back because I want to talk about his issue. He's the comedian who did Father Ted. Obviously, his issue is singular. It's the trans issue. We've debated that.
Yes.
However, the principle of a comedian posting jokes, which people may find offensive, on social media, as he did back in April, about the trans issue, then being met by 5 armed police officers
Where?
at Heathrow Airport in London.
Yeah. London.
And arrested and taken
Cool.
off. And a very interesting thing happened, which...
Get your fucking people in line then, Piers. This is not an American issue. Fine, yeah. People should not be arrested for posting trans jokes. Like, we agree with this.
Is why I say woke is dead as an ideology. Because 2-3 years ago, that would have been supported by everybody in the woke left. Yeah, bang him up. Absolutely disgusting. How dare he? He's transphobic. He's horrible. We know this.
he's a piece of
the way
shit.
that hang on. We know
Everyone
this
is
from
a
the way
piece
that
of shit,
J.K.
should go to
Rowling was
jail.
treated, right? For doing the same stuff about the trans issue. She was given death threats. She was threatened with this, that, and the other. But a different thing happened this time. This time, there was such a public outcry, including from many on the left, actually, to be fair to them, that this had crossed the line. We've got to stop doing this for stupid posts on social media. Hundreds of people on social media in the last 2 years in Britain have been arrested. It's completely ridiculous.
Can I respond?
Well, let me finish. So actually, the police not only said we're not going to prosecute him, but we're not going to prosecute anybody for this kind of offence going forward.
Cool.
That's a big win.
So
and a repudiation of cancel
All
culture.
you've told me is the left has progressed in their position on free speech, but the right has regressed. That's all you've
I'm
said.
not here to defend the right's position. I think that
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're going to write a book, it's trying to defend free speech. You should focus on where it's actually being attacked. But you wasted your time talking about this left boogeyman that does not exist. I agree with you. I love free speech. I am against all that stuff. I'm wearing the poppy today because of Remembrance Day, and we fought for free speech. And the right now is attacking it. And you have a huge platform, and you can take this time to actually defend free speech, but you're not.
I always defend free speech.
Okay, so then why don't you put more focus on the right then? So let me give you an example. You actually agree with my argument. You actually agree with my argument. On page 241 of your book, as I'll quote it again, you attacked Bob Chapek because he denounced Ron DeSantis for putting in like anti-gay laws, to put it quotely. But you said he should be attacking people like Xi Jinping because he does way more human rights violations. Yeah. But that applies here. Trump and the right do way more than the left. You said that in your own book. But right now you're contradicting yourself again.
I think both sides are capable of rank hypocrisy.
Who's worse?
I actually think, on balance, over the last 5 years, the woke left have been more suppressive of free speech.
Really?
Yes. Let me give you an example.
Okay. But you take like 15 minutes to give an example, and we have 14 minutes.
We haven't stopped talking.
That's true.
All right?
You know what, Piers, I had a great time.
Hey, that was good.
Yeah. I like the book.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
How's it going, Piers?
Hello.
Good to meet you.
Good to see you.
My name's Dash.
Good to see you.
Piers standing off against the liberals. This is really something.
Well, I am a liberal.
Your thoughts and beliefs in private, I would assume, more align with ours, but I understand getting. I understand getting that bag.
Well,
so look,
I don't know your thoughts.
I'll save you the trouble. I'll do it for you.
Okay.
Piers Morgan's new book, Woke is Dead, is out now. It's great.
Thank you.
I also read it cover to
great.
cover.
Thank you very
I wanted
much.
to take that off your shoulders.
Thank you.
But let's get into it. So I'm just curious, someone who doesn't have any kind of a relationship with accountability, would you agree that everything comes across to them as cancel culture?
No, I don't believe that speech comes without accountability.
Okay.
But I do believe we had a frenzied atmosphere in the last few years, driven predominantly by the woke left, of cancelling anybody that didn't sign up to their worldview, which I thought was very insidious. I called it out while it was happening. I've called it out since. I've now written a book about it all, saying we cannot go back to that. It doesn't mean the right aren't capable of doing similar stuff and being hypocrites. They are. But it also means that if you look at it in totality, I think this cancel culture mentality has been really damaging. And I think the war on free speech has been really damaging.
Okay, well, let's put this on a spectrum, because I think we use this term cancel culture and everybody's been canceled by the left. I don't have any actual evidence of what you're talking about. So let's say accountability is on this side, which is you facing consequences for your actions.
Let me give an example.
And on this side of the spectrum, it is facing consequences for something that is not justified.
Let me give an example.
So now let's start to place it in that spectrum.
Let me give you a specific example.
Because the people you carry water for on the right tend to be over here, where they don't take accountability for anything and instead feel like they're being canceled.
Wait a minute.
Although it's just consequences for your basic actions.
Do you ever watch my show?
I do.
And you really think I carry water for the right?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. There's a statistic that you defend Republicans more than anybody else.
No, I don't. I just attack the woke left more than anybody else.
Okay.
Correct. But it's friendly fire. I come at you as one of your own, only I didn't go mad.
I appreciate you admitting
only
that.
I didn't go mad, right? I didn't go mad, woke, bonkers. I stayed old-fashioned liberal, with liberal values, wanting free speech at the cornerstone of it. And let me give an example.
But Piers, I read your book. That's not the case.
Let me give
you spent most of the book with Trump's cock in your mouth.
If you read sorry?
You spent most of the book with Trump sucking him off.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. The prologue was The Dawn Rises, D-O-N.
The prologue, actually, if you read it, and I don't think you did, because you just revealed you probably haven't. The prologue actually starts with two conversations I have with him. One positive and one extremely negative.
Yes.
Which ends up with him saying, Piers Morgan's so dead, he's catching flies.
Right.
I'm not sure you've read the book, have you?
I have read the book.
Then you wouldn't say that I bleep, bleep.
No, because that was
Have you
you
read
meeting
the
him at
prologue?
Mar-a-Lago trying to win favor back
Not trying to
because
win
he was
favor, doing an
becoming the
interview.
presumptive nominee, so
Doing
you
an
needed to
interview.
get back onto his side.
Yes, but look.
After spending years being a critic of his, then you needed to win favor back when he was coming
I've never
into
spent
power.
years as a critic of Trump. I've spent years, I've known Donald Trump nearly 20 years. He's been a politician for the last 10 years of that period. In that time, for example, I used to write columns for the Daily Mail in America. I calculated after his first term in office, I wrote about 120 columns about Trump. You can go and check it.
Okay.
And about half were negative and half were positive. I do think in Trump's first term, if people had been fairer to give him credit where he deserved it and criticized him when he deserved it, everyone would have been a lot better off. I feel it now. The Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing, and it's
I
honestly...
wear that badge proudly.
I know, but it's kind of pathetic. It's like when I hear people say, he's the new Hitler. Really? Hitler murdered 12 million people, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. You think Donald Trump is the new Hitler? You're a fucking idiot.
Okay,
Right?
if we're going to talk about hyperbole, here we have focused half of the discussion today on trans issues. Well, we're not going to talk about things like, I don't know, Trump is in the Epstein files and he's using the government to cover it up. Should we talk about that?
Sure.
That affects a lot of people.
Let's talk about
How
that.
about him denying the
Let's talk about
2020
that.
election and eroding the
What do you
public's
want-
trust
what do
in
you
our
want to say?
institutions and
What do you-
processes?
ask me.
That affects everybody.
Okay.
So let's try not deflecting to the trans athletes conversation.
You've just brought up 2 more issues. I'm happy to talk about
We'll
them.
see if you deflect. Go on.
Well, go on. You want to ask me about them? Go on.
Okay, well, I'm saying let's focus on the issues that affect lots of people, not deflect into
Actually,
the
trans
culture
athletes
war
in sport,
issues that affect very few people in the grand scheme of
Well, let's be clear. The number of people directly affected by the Epstein scandal is probably 2,000.
what the president of the United States covering up a pedophilia scandal affects everybody.
If that's what he's doing. Well,
Common sense. You're a champion of common sense.
Well, I can tell you that I've spoken to Virginia Giuffre's lawyer multiple times, David Boyce. He's seen the files. He does not believe there's anything against Trump in those files. Well, okay.
What happened to common sense,
Okay.
Piers?
Well, actually, I prefer to stick to facts.
Jesus.
Hello.
Piers, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What's your name?
My name's Z.
Z?
Yeah.
Z?
Yes.
He doesn't know what that means.
Yeah.
That's
pronoun.
awkward.
I corrected him.
And you're sitting with each other.
Okay, so
That's not your pronoun, that's your name.
It's my name.
Okay.
My pronouns are she, her.
Oh, no, great.
So I think I tend to agree with you mostly on the cancel culture stuff.
Right.
In fact, like I was canceled back in April from this guy behind me.
Really?
Yeah, and so
Wow. Hang on.
over some woke stuff. Okay.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah.
What did he do to you?
Well, it was
I
about
knew this about him.
It was about microaggression. So, but my point is that I think that the far left
That's why.
tend to do this to shrink the Democratic tent so that they don't have to take responsibility in winning elections.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do think that that's a very small portion of the far left.
Except
So
they're
I
now
can't-
winning. They're now winning power. This is what Mamdani.
They
knew.
are,
Yeah.
right,
That's
which
the
is a
pendulum
good
swing.
thing.
Actually, it's a terrible thing.
Well, first of all, I don't think Mamdani is considered the far left. Parker and Mamdani are not in the same category to me,
Right.
because he believes in electoral power, right? But my point is that you still are stumping for Republicans as if Republicans.
I don't stump for anybody.
Well,
I don't.
come on, Pierce.
I really don't.
I've watched your show a lot.
Then you will know I don't stump for anybody.
Okay, but you just made the defense in this argument with, I think, the guy before this last guy, where you said that you think Republicans are better on free speech than the woke
have been
left.
in the last few years, yes.
Right. Well, and I totally disagree with you. Can we use Charlie Kirk as an example?
Yes.
Do you think that Charlie Kirk stood for free speech?
Absolutely.
You do.
Oh my God.
Really? How? Tell me about that.
Charlie Kirk was the absolute personification
Jesus.
of defending free speech.
Oh, really?
Let me explain why.
Okay.
Charlie Kirk had strong views about a lot of things, many of which you probably don't agree with, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But Charlie Kirk, week after week, around America, would go onto university
whitewashing
campuses
of it.
knowing that most people there didn't agree with him, may have a preconceived view about him, maybe thought he was a fascist and all the other things they called him. And he would sit there in his tent, sometimes outside as he was when he was appallingly assassinated, and he would say, prove me wrong. And people would line up and they'd come and have a debate like this, and he would listen to them respectfully, he'd challenge them,
No.
he'd argue with them.
That's not what happened.
Sorry, that's exactly what
As somebody-
Charlie Kirk
as-
did.
Okay, as somebody that
And for that,
runs-
he got a bullet in the neck.
Okay, as somebody that runs the counter organization to Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, that is not the point of what Charlie Kirk was doing. Charlie Kirk did not decide to debate high-profile debaters, people like Destiny or people on the left that would actually give him a real debate. In fact, he even denied debating Dean Withers. I was literally with him when he did that, okay? So it's not like he was going in to have a real debate. He would go to
But he
these
did have real debate.
No, he would go to these college campuses to debate kids that were very much underprepared so that he could clip them and then raise money for Turning Point to go out there and then register voters, okay?
Then don't debate him.
I think that that's brilliant, okay? That's why I'm trying to replicate it. But you cannot say that he was there for free speech, because that's not really free speech, especially when Charlie Kirk went and tried to he denied us from going into his events just because we were Democrats. He canceled our permits, even though we had permits that we paid for.
You wouldn't argue.
That's not free speech.
But you wouldn't argue.
It's also not, and he also called for his opponents to be deported. He said Mehdi Hassan was a jihadist and should be deported. Said the same thing about Ilhan Omar. Okay? Defended Trump in his flag burning. He was not. He was not a defender of free speech, and everyone's going to whitewash and sanitize his record because he's dead. But nope, good for Z for calling him out.
He would regularly, and I mean almost on a daily basis, debate with people who he didn't agree with.
College students, unprepared college students. Do you think that's real debate?
Let me throw back at you something, which I'm interested in about your response to this.
Yeah.
He went to the Oxford Union in April, May this year.
How'd that turn out?
And he debated a guy during the appearance there, who then became the president-elect of the Oxford Union, who, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, reacted by posting LOL, laughing out loud, and then he said, Charlie Kirk just got shot, let's effing go, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Yeah,
he celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk, who was killed, let's be clear, because he had views that the person who killed him didn't agree with.
Yeah.
That person continued to want to be president-elect of a debating society. Do you agree that it's not a question of free speech or cancel culture, that he was incompatible with the position of being president of a debating society if you celebrate someone's murder for their speech?
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
That's good.
We can agree on that. I
watched the way a lot of the woke left celebrated, posting, and these were teachers, nurses, doctors, professors, posting videos of themselves, glorifying, celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. It was one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen.
Do you think that they should be fired for that?
Yeah, absolutely, they should be fired.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Actually, though. Wait a second. Let's go back to that. I think they should be fired for that. Guy who's against cancel culture is suddenly in favor of it when it's people expressing heinous beliefs that they don't like. But if it's spreading misinformation about COVID or saying racial slurs or demonizing any marginalized community, that's fine. They shouldn't be fired, misgender, and, be as much of a dick as you want. But as soon as you make any sort of lighthearted joke about someone who was assassinated, something, mind you, I don't agree with, you should be fired and you should have your life destroyed. These people who say they're against cancel culture are so full of shit, okay? They're against cancel culture when they're the ones who are being canceled or are not in control. None of these people, I'll say both. I think people who do that, who post like, let's go, Charlie Kirk was killed, multiple things. One, I think it's antithetical to our movement and literally just turns people away. So regardless of how right you are, there's a difference between being right and winning. So you should stop doing things that make normal people run for the hills. Okay, that's one of them. And two, those people should not be fired. Okay, I don't think people should be fired for these types of things. I think we should deal with things in democratic ways. I think social pressure and ostracization in certain ways, if someone uses racial slurs a lot, it's understandable if you don't want to be friends with that person. If you don't think we should celebrate political assassinations and someone you know is doing it, that's fine to not want to associate with them, okay? This is not that complicated to remain consistent. But of course, Piers is going to place much more emphasis on the murder of Charlie Kirk than he will anything else.
Ever seen.
Do you think that they should be fired for that?
Yeah, absolutely, they should be fired for that. How are you?
I'm Rob.
Nice to meet you, Rob.
So I think we are conflating accountability with cancel culture. I am the mayor of my hometown, and if I came on here, Los Gatos, California, if I came on here and said a bunch of bigoted things, my voters would righteously vote me out. I would be out of a job. That's not cancel culture. That's just common sense and accountability.
Sure.
Can you tell me someone who has been permanently canceled?
No.
You're here today. People like Bill Cosby don't get gigs because he's a pervert, right?
I can tell you two people where there was a global effort to cancel us, right? And one was me, and it came after the Oprah Winfrey Wine-a-thon, where Meghan and Harry trashed my royal family and trashed the monarchy in the most despicable, disingenuous manner imaginable. 57,000 wokies bombarded the Ofcom television regulator. They weren't Good Morning Britain, the show I was doing, viewers. These were just woke left progressives who wanted me fired for disbelieving the claims about racism and mental health that were cited in that interview, which have never been substantiated and which I, to this day, do not believe. And I was told...
How do you substantiate a conversation? Like, I mean, it is very hard to substantiate. You know, the fact that Meghan said there were questions with the royal family asking how dark the child's skin would be. That is a conversation. What do you think? She was secretly recording? She's going to release some recording? Like, what? We need evidence. Where the fuck are you going to get evidence from? You either believe it or you don't, okay? And I guess if it goes against your precious monarchy, which doesn't have a great track record of, supporting equality among racial groups, like, wow, the British monarchy and royal family that has been enshrined for thousands of years is racist? Whoa! I am so shocked. I'm so shocked by that revelation. Like, I don't know. Common sense once again, Piers. The royal family's racist. The colonial royal family's racist. Wow, the sky is blue. 2 + 2 = 4.
You've got to apologize for this because the mob have come. You've got to apologize or lose your job. A job I was doing very successfully. Done it for 5 years, trebled the ratings. We just eclipsed the BBC as a #1 morning show. I was at the peak of my...
people should be fired for celebrating or not sufficiently, in his view, mourning the death of Charlie Kirk? That's part of it too.
But because I was exercising my right not to believe somebody who actually it turned out was spewing a lot of bullshit, I had to leave my job because I wasn't going to apologize. Now, let me give you the subjunct to that, which is far worse. Sharon Osbourne, my longtime friend, was hosting a show here called The Talk on CBS. She'd done it for 10 years. She loved that job. She was brilliant at that job. She defended me when asked about it. She didn't defend what I'd said. She just said, I'm here for my friend Piers, right? The black co-panelist, Cheryl Underwood, played the race card on the next episode of The Talk. She turned to Sharon on air and said, out of nowhere, this wasn't planned, why did you support someone who said racist things? I had never said anything racist about Meghan Markle. Sharon, obviously under attack, saying she'd been supporting a racist and by definition must therefore be a racist, said, well, what's he said that's racist? At which point Cheryl Underwood went on this ridiculous little, it's a point to it. Cheryl Underwood just said, it's not so much that he said racist things, it's kind of the way he said stuff.
Bro needs a therapist to talk about all this, bro. Bro says he's never been to therapy. He just uses his nightly show as a therapy session. Jesus Christ. Get a therapist, dude. Talk about this unresolved stuff and trauma that you have. Don't dump it on all of us. I don't want to hear this shit. Move on.
So Sharon said...
Is this what you think people are talking about when they say cancel culture?
Yes, I'm going to come to it. So Cheryl Underwood says this, and then she says, I'm not accusing you of being racist, Sharon. Sharon says, I think that ship has sailed. Here's what happened to Sharon for a job she loved. She was bombarded with death threats, online mayhem, vilified, shamed.
Cool,
people saying, fire her. Wait a minute, let me finish.
I think that's bad.
Let me finish. Fire her. Death threats as well.
Monopolizing.
I think that's bad.
She eventually issued a groveling, sobbing apology. It still wasn't enough. She got fired from that job. For what? For absolutely nothing. For the next year, she had the worst year of her life.
I don't think that's what people talk about when you're talking about cancel culture.
Wait, you're talking about cancel culture, saying like no one has ever been a victim.
You're talking about comedians who make a racist joke and somebody doesn't want to listen to them anymore.
What about Sharon Osbourne?
I don't know much about that. That sounds bad. No, that sounds bad. That sounds bad. I wouldn't cancel Sharon Osbourne.
Why did I have to leave my job for disbelieving Meghan Markle?
Oh my God.
I don't know.
It's called cancel culture.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
They didn't even let him talk at all.
Hello.
Hi, Amanda.
Amanda, nice to meet you.
So cancel culture. I'm trying to understand, is it that you believe it's something that's not necessary within society to hold people accountable? Is it
No. I do
Okay.
think accountability is very important.
Of
And
course.
individual companies are perfectly entitled to operate their own policies.
Mhm.
What I'm talking about is where...
So then why are you complaining? Hold on. Why are you complaining about being fired? That's just an individual company upholding their policy. These people are such hypocrites. They're in favor of cancel culture when it benefits them and are against it when it's happening to them. It's that simple.
Individual companies are perfectly entitled to operate their
Sure,
own policies.
unless they fire you
What
and then
I'm
you fucking
talking
whine
about is
about it.
where the woke mob, normally through social media,
Mhm.
would pile pressure, and it's not exclusive to them. I've seen it happen with the right as well. But would pile pressure on companies, on
then that's
institutions
them
to
enforcing
fire
their
people, often for what, in my opinion, were things that might be offensive to people or whatever, but they're not at the bar where they should lose their livelihoods.
Well, I do understand. I mean, there's a line when it comes to cancel culture where there are things that are taken too far, where people do lose their jobs for certain things that some people may find offensive or some people might not find offensive.
I mean, free speech, you know, the whole point of free speech is not about you and I agreeing.
Exactly.
It's about our ability to listen to each other, and maybe you even saying hateful things to me. If they don't cross the bar of criminality, you're allowed to do that, and I should just suck it up. I don't have to like it, but I have to tolerate the fact in a free democratic society like the United States with the First Amendment, you're entitled to do that.
And see, that's where I disagree. I don't feel that it has to reach a bar of criminality in order for it to be something that someone has to be held accountable for. Though we have free speech, there does have to be lines drawn because there are things that are inappropriate regardless. You know, as you said when you were discussing books that are banned or certain things, the remarks you made about Meghan Markle. I don't agree that's something that you should be fired for, but I do see why there are people, and you need to look outside of your own perspective. There are people who felt that you needed to be canceled for such an instance.
Why?
Black women, especially around the world in the global West, they're oftentimes not listened to, and their problems, their pain, their mental health are oftentimes disregarded or undermined. And so that's also been a problem in gynecology, which is why we see maternal rates for Black women.
So you believe Meghan Markle?
I believe Meghan Markle.
Really?
Why wouldn't I believe
Well, let me
Meghan
give an
Markle?
example of why you probably shouldn't. So she said in that interview that she and Harry were married secretly by the Archbishop of Canterbury 3 days before the public wedding.
I recall.
Had that been true, the Archbishop of Canterbury would have committed a crime and would have gone to prison.
Or he just
Did
wasn't
you ever see him go to
prosecuted.
prison?
No, I did not.
Did that make you think that maybe that never happened?
Or if he just wasn't
Honestly, no, it did not.
Do you think everyone who commits a crime is prosecuted? I got something to sell you, bro, if you believe that. Whoa, he broke the law and he didn't go to jail. Like, oh my God.
Make me think that it's something that did not occur. I want to answer your question.
They said in that interview that senior members of the royal family, who we now know through a leaked copy of the book where the names appeared, were supposedly then Prince Charles, now King Charles, and Catherine, William's wife, made comments that they were concerned about the potential skin color of the unborn baby.
Yes.
Do you believe, on balance, that that's likely to have happened?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
The royal family?
Coming from the British institution, that's something that has been, you know, for centuries trying to maintain the purity of the blood. You know, something that has been within British aristocracy.
Well, they can't help being white, can they?
No, I'm not saying.
What are you suggesting?
Hold on, wait a second.
Something, being white, if you're purposely trying to preserve it, it is something that you are doing.
Yeah, hold on, hold. Piers just... They can't help but be white. They have to maintain being white. Wow, like he just admitted it. It probably happened. He doesn't have a problem with it. Fascinating.
Purposefully trying to preserve.
The way they interbred for years. I have studied English aristocracy for
you think,
many
just to be
years.
clear, you think the royal
And I
family
will
have been
say that-
deliberately trying to stay white?
Yes. What do you think? It's a royal family. Are we talking about the same Britain? Are we talking about the same colonial empire? Like what? Oh my God, this is priceless.
I will say is that conservatism oftentimes does have to tie with the purity of whiteness and white culture. And so there are a large majority of conservatives who do see whiteness as the main basis of being a conservative, of something that's very important that they need to preserve. And it's why a lot of times they exclude minorities and why they feel as though things such as wokeness are poor, they shouldn't be included because it's giving that pathway.
What should worry you more is that having set off this absolute inferno about the royal family being a bunch of callous racists, where's it?
I don't.
Well, Harry then wrote a book. Do you remember the book Spare?
Yes, I have.
420 odd pages of his life story.
Yes.
Do you know the two things that didn't appear in that book?
Inform
the
me.
racism allegations against his family about the skin color of their unborn child, and the fact that the Buckingham Palace officials apparently told Meghan Markle she couldn't get help for her suicidal thoughts. Those two things never got repeated, never appeared in their documentary, never appeared in the book. They just vanished.
Because of all the hate
It did appear in the documentary. I did watch the documentary.
When Harry was asked about it recently, he said, oh, no, it was the media that put a racist tone on this. I never meant to say my family were racist. Oh, yes, you did. We all watched what you guys said.
It's okay.
That was great.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right.
Oh, hey.
Shane.
Good to see you, Shane.
Nice to meet you. I want to take it back all the way to your original claim, and you've said a lot of examples. I don't think you provided a single example of how cancel culture is a violation of free speech.
Okay, I'll give you one. The 2 weeks before the election where Biden won, the New York Post got an exclusive story about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Sure.
It was
fantastic.
Okay, and people can laugh, actually contained incredibly damaging information,
100%.
which may have led to serious charges against a lot of the Biden family. We now will never know because they've all been pardoned. But this story was suppressed by the left in the most disgraceful manner imaginable. The left at the time being all the tech giants who were all...
Define suppressed.
They literally banned the New York Post account from their platforms.
Okay.
Until they took down the front page exclusive.
Free speech isn't protected on what platform you can speak on.
No.
These are private
You asked me
companies.
for an example of cancel culture.
I disagree with this guy a bit. Okay, so I think people on the left do. People on the right do this a lot. They conflate freedom of speech with freedom from societal consequences. But I think it could also be a threat to a free speech culture if people are silenced for expressing views. So, for example, when someone says people should not be banned, from prominent platforms for expressing their opinions that are pretty mainstream, but a lot of people might disagree with. Of course, we're not saying that their First Amendment was violated, but there's a difference between the First Amendment in the legal sense and the First Amendment in kind of a cultural or principled sense. So I do think that, people being banned off of platforms is a threat to free speech. It's a threat to a culture of free speech, not even if it's not a threat to someone's physical liberty and that they're not being jailed for their speech. In terms of the Hunter Biden laptop story, my understanding of that case, and I've looked into it a decent amount, was there was a lot of scrubbing that was going on the internet because people were on that laptop. There was not just if you don't know much about Hunter Biden, you can know he's very, very troubled in terms of drug use and things of that nature. He's kind of the he's the troubled child of the family, the odd one out, we can say. And so there's some serious issues with that. But there were people who were releasing classified information. Rather not classified, I should say, compromising information that was specifically nude photos that had been leaked from Hunter Biden and his encounter with sex workers that had been filmed largely without his consent and then released on the internet as some sort of political blackmail. So the Biden family had been coordinating with Twitter in order to get that stuff taken down because who wants their nude photos on the internet as a form of revenge porn? So what happens is then after that happens, after they're basically fighting to make sure someone's nudes aren't out on the internet, this laptop story comes out and the New York Post wants to publish it online, unfiltered, with everything that could be possible in it right before the election. And Twitter's we've been dealing with some people who are trying to blackmail the Biden family with compromising images and photos. We're maybe not going to let you publish and put an entire laptop of information on there when there could be potentially compromising information that we've been dealing with for the past year and a half. So that's understandable to not want to do that. Now, should they lock them out of their Twitter account? I don't know. There's a question of degree and proportionality here. But this doesn't suggest a massive coordinated effort to benefit the Biden family politically. It suggests that people, if they have compromising information on that is being released without their consent to the public, particularly graphic nudity, not anything revealing corruption, though maybe there was something on there, it should be protected. And we should take the proper steps so that the entirety of someone's hard drive is not put on the internet, so that everything criminal and otherwise, non-criminal but just personal, is revealed to the public. And I think it's very important that that's acknowledged and protected. So just a lot of stuff that's going on here.
I asked you for an example of violation of free speech, which is
that is a violation of free speech,
which is a promise that the government will not come in and arrest you for anything you say.
Hang on,
you are not entitled to viewers on your show just because people agree with you.
I agree. Shane, let me make my point.
Go ahead.
You asked me for an example of where free speech had been suppressed.
Violated.
A major, violated.
Not suppressed, violated.
Violated. A major national American newspaper of 100+ years standing, the New York Post, had its account taken down on social media.
Okay, did anyone get arrested?
Because they were exposing a true story about the son of the man who would be president and became president in a way that was directly intended to benefit Joe Biden and hinder Donald Trump's chances of winning that election.
And I don't agree with that suppression.
That's what I mean.
But
That's
how
an example.
was anyone arrested?
What do you mean arrested?
There's a problem with this guy. Once again, conflating the idea of a suppression or a violation of free speech can only be legal. It can be a threat to a free speech culture and one that we want people to speak their minds and not be censored. And I think that's important. So a free speech culture is as important, if not more important, than a robust First Amendment that's protected legally. And this guy is not understanding that distinction.
Is any free speech violated that the government stepped in and arrested someone?
Well, I just told you the story of Graham Linehan, who was arrested.
At the Heathrow Airport?
Yeah.
In the UK?
Yeah.
You don't have free speech in the UK.
Well, that's part of the problem, I agree.
That sounds like a UK problem, not a US problem.
The US has a big problem.
So it has a problem, but where has free speach been violated because of cancel? No, you gave me one at Heathrow Airport.
No, I'll give you the New York Post example.
Who has been arrested as a result of cancel culture? Because someone has said something that was either bigotry, racist, sexist, whatever it is, and people are not entitled to have viewers based on their opinions.
No, I'm not saying they are.
If people disagree with you, they can say, oh, we're not going to watch you anymore. They're going to go out in social media and say, hey, everybody, let's stop watching this person because he came out as racist.
100%.
Okay, and that's not a violation of free speech.
No, Sharon Osbourne was fired, as I just told you.
Also not a violation of free speech.
Of course it was.
49 states are at-will employee states. Companies can fire you for any reason that is not related to discrimination.
I agree. Listen, I've already said, I think you're misunderstanding me.
I think you're misunderstanding me.
I've
already said that
Piers is not making the proper distinction between free speech legally and a free speech culture societally. And that would solve this entire disagreement and dispute that they have right now.
Companies are perfectly entitled to do what they like. They're private businesses, right?
Yes.
So CBS was perfectly entitled to do it. But was it a violation of Sharon's free speech rights, what they did? Yes.
No, not a violation. It was a suppression. It was, I don't agree with it.
What's the difference?
I think the people, she didn't get arrested for what she said.
Well, violation doesn't just mean you get arrested.
Yes, being violated of your free speech, being able to not...
I can violate you without involving arresting you.
Is that what you see when you look at me? You want to violate me?
Oh, all right.
No, that is what we have in our Constitution that is protected. You can say and do whatever you want.
You have better protections here than we do in the UK.
I agree. But your speech is protected. You can be as hateful, as angry, as misogynistic as you want to be, and people can hate you for that.
Yeah.
Consequences, you do not have a right to be on a platform and get to say whatever you want.
Sure.
You can.
But if I say,
you can, but people don't have to watch
if
you.
I say right now on camera, I think you should be shot dead, that is actually a criminal offense. And I would be arrested.
If you said you wanted to shoot me dead or you're encouraging people to shoot me dead, that is not protected free speech. That is a threat.
Correct. It's a crime.
You saying I should be shot dead is
so
free speech.
My point being,
and that makes you look like a terrible...
Not quite. That's not quite that simple. If you say someone should be shot dead on a public platform where you have a lot of influence and power, absolutely that can meet the bar of incitement. So no.
Right, not all. Yeah, I agree.
So, and you're not going to be arrested for that.
I've already made the point that hateful speech has to be tolerated in a free democratic society.
I agree.
Right, where it passes the bar of criminality, then obviously the law enforcement take over, and that's how it should be. The problem comes, and it's been more of a problem in my country than here. I agree, but I do think in terms of suppressing free speech, what was going on with things like the New York Post story being suppressed was absolutely disgraceful.
I agree. We're not disagreeing on that.
Good.
Your claim was a
let's end on the point of agreement. We end up agreeing. I love that.
I keep talking that skill the whole time. So we can get that distinction out of the way. All right, here we go. Who are we going to talk to?
Barker, you're too annoying. Nick. I've chosen Nick to come back for the final debate, which will be his debate, because he impressed me during our conversation earlier, and that cannot be said about everybody that's sat opposite me today. So, Nick, come to the chair.
Good to talk to you again, Piers.
Welcome back.
My surrounded claim is that discussions of woke politics are merely a distraction from our common enemy, the billionaire class. So, as I just said, I think that these discussions of woke, whether we're saying that the problems in society are because of broke graduate students or people that are being mean to us on Twitter, ultimately it's all secondary to what really unites us. I think that it's woke to talk about the fact that the middle America, the industrial heartland of Britain have been hollowed out by forces of globalization, outsourcing jobs to places like China or India or Malaysia or Vietnam, and that these, talking about trans athletes, talking about what people choose to identify themselves as, it's all so unimportant. And 80, 90, 95% of what actually matters is what's gonna put more money in people's pockets, what's gonna let them have a dignified life for them and their family. And talking about wokeness, whether it's dead or alive, it's just a distraction, and it's really not important or relevant to most of our lives 95% of the time.
Okay, I think you can, the first part I agreed with, about the globalization. I think it's spot on. And also, I'm not trying to claim that the wokeism, cultural war issues are more important than globalization, or the impact, as you say, of nefarious billionaires around the world having too much power and money, with the disparity between them and the poorest parts of society getting bigger and bigger. Well, I have very strong views about that. Nor am I trying to say that the debate about pronouns is in any way as significant as a debate I have all the time about the war in Gaza or the war in Ukraine. I just think you can have all these debates at the same time. And to pretend, as the woke left do, that none of these culture wars cut through or matter is to be completely deluded. And I would simply say to you that there was a UN report came out, and it said, I think it was 2024, nearly 900 medals in competitive women's sport, to come back to that issue we discussed, had been deprived from actual women because trans athletes had won them. That's a staggeringly large number of girls and women who've been deprived of their rightful medal competing in women's sport because of...
I don't really care that much about this issue. I just think it's a distraction once again. First off, there'd be a couple things that we'd have to look at with that story that I'm just not familiar with. I know Michael Knowles brought this up. What were the eligibility requirements? Were the hormonal levels equivalent or equal? I'm not saying that solves the entire problem there, but there are certain standards that have to be met. And for example, if we want to have a conversation about who's able to compete in what category, that's fine. Once again, I think we are putting so much emphasis on these few issues. Once again, instead of this. So this is kind of proving the point that, what do I care more about? How many medals would I be willing to sacrifice in order to make sure that people have food on the table? An infinite number, because sports is fake and a joke. Okay, that doesn't mean I don't think that fairness is important or that people are entitled to, be able to receive recognition. But if it's going to come at the expense of, once again, the billionaire class continuing to rob us, then I don't. They are a distraction in many ways.
The altar of trans activism driven by the woke
See,
left.
this is my trouble, Piers, with talking about trans athletes, because functionally you're talking about 900 medals given out to people. I don't know.
Not
the
enough
figure.
for you?
My thing is that an 8-year-old winning a track and field meet doesn't really affect me.
What about Riley Gaines?
California.
What about Riley Gaines, who's in the campaign? But what about Riley Gaines? I mean, why should Leah Thomas...
This is exactly my point, Piers. This whole discussion of trans athletes has nothing to do with what actually matters to people's lives.
I don't agree with you,
You're talking about it because
with all due
it
respect,
gets a lot of clicks, gets a lot of viewers,
I don't agree
sells
with you.
books.
I don't agree with you.
And these other issues are much more important. But
you know who leads that campaign of saying no one cares? The woke left. Most of whom think it's absolutely fine. Most of whom think someone like Riley Gaines is the enemy
this is
for
the
standing
problem,
up
Piers,
for women's rights.
Is you're saying that we
She's
have
not.
time
She
to
supports
debate
Donald
all
Trump,
these...
a serial rapist. I don't give a shit what Riley Gaines has to say about women's rights. Okay? She doesn't give a shit. The only time Riley Gaines cares about women's rights is when she can use it to attack trans people or immigrants, as she's both done. Okay? So I don't give a shit what she has to say about any of this.
Issues, but practically we know that society prioritizes different issues.
How much time do you think you've spent on the Israel-Hamas war compared to wokeism in the last calendar year?
A lot of time has been spent on the Israel-Gaza war.
Give me a percentage.
A lot of people have died.
Give me a percentage.
I have no
of
idea.
How much time I personally devoted to one.
I'm not sitting here with a stopwatch going, how much time is spent on one. What I know is not nearly enough time is being spent on homelessness, poverty. These are the issues that really matter.
There are a million issues. You may not care about the trans athlete issue. I can tell you millions of people do. Who are you, all due respect, to have the arrogance to tell people what they should be caring about? You can compare,
I'm not trying to tell them not to care about it. I don't think it should be at the top or even in the top 10 of the issues they actually are talking about.
That's entirely your prerogative. But you should not be arrogant enough to assume you know what people care about. I know from...
People care about what you distract them to care about. So when you get them to care about these minutiae issues, as opposed to more larger issues that affect them, such as affordability, then yeah, absolutely, that's going to affect public opinion and the way that they operate and the issues that they say they're important.
Work I did on this book and this tour I've been doing and the conversations I've been having, a huge number of people do care about this. They genuinely have felt that the woke left have turned the world into a joyless, horrible place where everyone gets scolded, vilified, cancelled, shamed, and sometimes shot because of what they're saying.
But this is the whole
I think that does matter.
Of social media and the way that public discourse works is instead of talking about the issues that are the most relevant to people's lives, I'm not talking about whether they care or not, but I'm talking about relevance.
Okay.
How much it actually matters to your life.
Okay.
The
do you have
economic
any kids?
issues,
Do you have any kids?
I do not have
Okay,
kids.
if you had a daughter, I've got a 13-year-old daughter. She's showing no sign of doing this, but if she had aspirations to be an Olympian, for example, would you feel differently if her Olympic place was taken by a trans athlete?
I do not want anyone's Olympic dreams to be crushed, but I think that their ability to get a well-paying job is much more important and something we should be focusing on.
Then you made it clear you think that the Olympic dream is irrelevant?
No, I don't think it's irrelevant.
I much prefer to focus on the American dream than an Olympic dream, personally.
So you have your fixed set of things that you care about. I respect that, right? A lot of people will.
But again, Piers,
a lot of
I
people
think
watching
everybody cares about these things. But they don't work people up as much, and so it doesn't get as much airplay.
Well, of course they do.
No, we all know that if this was a discussion about the minutia of healthcare policy, it would not get as many viewers as an hour-long conversation about trans athletes.
But you don't think,
come on, we know this.
But you don't think that issues, for example, like the wars in Ukraine and Gaza, get people angry and passionate?
If it
and
bleeds,
motivated?
it leads. Of course that matters. Of course.
You don't think
war and peace is incredibly important.
You don't think the issue of globalization and the impact on people's jobs and lives has not been the subject of a lot of passionate, angry, animated debate?
I think it gets far less airtime than it deserves, because what we see is that whether you're on the right populist side or the left populist side, they've all got their fingers squarely aimed at the puppet masters pulling the strings behind our whole system. But it's the people in the middle. And this is what I wish people would really understand at home. It is not the left that pushed woke politics or identity politics. It was neoliberals who wanted to have the current system maintain the status quo, but give people who hadn't had a stake in that system more representation within it. But the fact is that for most people, whether the CEO of Lockheed Martin is a trans black woman does not matter. What matters for most people is whether they have a job that actually is able to pay the rent,
I would say,
that they can have a hope of owning a home, that they can marry who they like to. That stuff matters.
It only matters if the black trans leader of a company has only got that job because they're black and trans and not on ability. Because then you move into a country and society which prides itself on mediocrity over meritocracy.
Oh, Jesus.
I believe in opportunity for all at the bottom rung. But once that ladder starts, I believe only the most capable people should get to the top.
The people getting tens of millions of stock options are not my priority.
You know what,
it's the person making minimum wage that's my priority.
The best quote about DEI I've heard was Stephen Pinker. He said they're rather like the Holy Roman Empire, which ended up being neither holy, Roman, or really an empire. That's what DEI became. It's supposed to be diverse, equal, and inclusive. Ended up being none of those things. And that's the problem. We should be, one of the good things about this conversation, it's been a conversation. I don't think enough of this happens where people don't just scream at each other. I've actually found this an engaging environment to talk in. I like being challenged. You've all given me a little something to think about, you in particular, that's why I brought you back. These are good conversations to have. I'm not saying you're intrinsically wrong, that your priority list is not more important. I think it probably is, right? But I also think the idea that millions and millions of people around the world, tens of millions, hundreds of millions probably, do not care about those other issues is deluded.
But this is why I chose the prompt that I did, because I know that when I get upset about something, it clouds out a lot of other things that I should be thinking about, but I get so focused on the thing I'm angry about. This is why woke politics has become such a useful canard for people of all political persuasions, because it does get people worked up, because it does speak to basic issues of identity and belonging and meaning. And when you undermine that, people do get really upset. And what that does is it takes away their emotional and intellectual bandwidth from the things that would materially improve their lives. And that is why I think that this whole conversation, not that it's not important, but it should not be crowding out, as it is in our public discourse, all the other issues that are so much more important. That's why you saw, I know you don't agree with Mamdani in New York, Mamdani did not run a campaign on woke politics. He aimed it squarely at cost of living, affordability issues, and he won more votes than anybody in New York City in the last 60 years.
Hang on. He also promised, like all good socialists, he's going to give everyone everything for free. And let me tell you what's
I'll tell you what, buses are free for most people in New York already.
Let me tell you what's going to happen with Mamdani. You can take this to the bank, because socialism has never worked anywhere in the world for any sustained period of time. Mamdani is going to let down all the people that voted for him, because he will not be able to afford to do anything like the stuff he says he's going to do. You can take it to the bank.
Well, this is where I agree with you. Definitions matter. Socialism is about public ownership of the means of production. Zoran Mamdani is not proposing seizing, J.P. Morgan's building.
He literally said he wants to take control of productivity.
I have not seen him say that.
He's a communist.
He is not a communist.
Literally, that is the rhetoric of a communist.
He is not a communist. And again,
if you want to drink the Mamdani Kool-Aid, fine with you, right? He is a communist,
I think it's good to have more candidates like
New York has
Spanberger,
never had a guy like that
Mickey
running the
Sherrill,
city.
like Mamdani, who are focused on cost of living and affordability, speaking to the issues that actually matter in people's lives. Childcare being $22,000 a year. We may disagree on how to provide that childcare, but you're speaking to an issue that affects 80% of families, 80% of parents.
I agree.
So let's talk about that more.
I agree.
Trans athletes, with all due respect, you brought up Riley Gaines. There might be a couple of others, but we're talking about a vanishingly small number.
No, we're not.
And what I'm concerned about is the little girl who just wants to be on a team, who just wants to participate in her community. And I look at all the young California children who saw trans athletes participating, and they didn't care at all, man. So why does everybody else, when the kids get that this is bogus?
Here's what happens, Nick. I know you're going to get your little round of applause.
I know, it's easy.
But here's what
easy
happens.
to get that.
When the little girls grow up and they get to be Riley Gaines and they're actually competing for a living, and this is their livelihood and their dream.
She came in 5th place, tied with a trans woman in sports. Leah Thomas is the best thing that could have ever happened to Riley Gaines. Are you kidding me? Now she gets to be on a public media tour of being a hateful bigot instead of a mediocre college swimmer who has to get a normal 9 to 5. Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? It's that simple.
Dream of getting to win competitions to get to the Olympics.
Well, luckily,
then,
Riley didn't become anything,
wait a minute.
did she?
Well,
she's just a commentator.
Actually, she did become
her
something.
Olympic dream was sadly never going to be.
You may be glib about it, but actually what happened is a 6'3" biological male came in and began to destroy the integrity of women's swimming in America. You may not think that matters. I do. That's why I talk a lot about this. That's why Riley's been brave to talk about it. That's why J.K. Rowling was brave to talk about it. And the idea that I know, you can all vilify J.K. Rowling. I don't even like her. She hates me. She called me a disgusting, toadying Trump apologist when I was on Bill Maher once, when I got told to fuck off. So I've got no truck for her whatsoever, right? But on that issue, I've loudly supported her, which is kind of what I feel about the Trump thing, by the way, is that the hysteria that goes around him, it doesn't help anybody. You're better off saying, well, Trump does something good. For example, if I was to ask you as a group, is it good that Trump has basically shut the southern border down after the Biden administration let in 10 million people illegally over that border in 4 years? And that may be a conservative estimate. Is that a good thing? The honest, intellectually honest answer should be yes. Are there issues now about the way ICE has been going around picking up undocumented people who may have built their lives here, contributed to society and so on? Absolutely.
I'm glad you made the point for me, so I didn't have to.
Absolutely. So there are caveats to my support for the overall policy. But on the southern border, everybody should be able to say that's a good thing. And they should also applaud Trump for trying to forge peace in places around the world where there is war, be it Gaza, where he got the hostages out.
You'll never hear me criticizing peacemaking.
So my point is, if the hysteria just dials down a touch, and actually we try and do what we've done here.
Who's the one who's causing the hysteria, dude? Look at Trump's social media and what he says. Are you kidding me? You think we're the ones who are hysterical?
A bit more together, have a bit more consensus, give credit where it's due, criticize where it's due, but sometimes agree to disagree. You know, I'm not saying you're wrong with your priority list. I'm just saying that I think to exclude these other things is disingenuous from my perspective, because I think it is important. But we can agree to disagree about that. And I'm not saying that your priority list is in any way invalid, because it's not.
Well, I think we found some middle ground here.
Yes.
That's the wrong show.
Yeah. You know what? Just in case they want to end it. You know what, Nick? I've always hated you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
I think he's intentionally not really aligned with either. I think he likes to punch the left from the center. I think he likes to punch the right from the center. I think he's kind of all over the map depending on the issue he's talking about. So I don't think you can neatly categorize him into this block or that block, which frankly I think we need more of in our politics.
I literally still, even after debating him and hearing his takes, still have no idea who the he is.
The problem I have with a lot of the wokies when it comes to the debating, I do feel like they've been infected with a weird virus, which gives them a kind of self-righteousness that their positioning is not only right, but it's the only acceptable worldview. I have grown, I think, more intellectually honest as I've got older about accepting when I've been wrong. You've got to know that when facts are facts, and if facts change in particular, you've got to move where the facts go. And you mustn't be intransigent that your worldview, even if it's science and biology denying, is the only acceptable view.
I recommend anyone reading books that they fundamentally disagree with. So if you are somebody who considers himself woke and liberal, read it. If you are a conservative, you'll
pretty insufferable.
be just confirmation bias.
I had to do that. Okay. All right, let's drag myself back up here and let's talk about it. All right, so that was definitely something. I somewhat remember why I haven't been recording these as much as I have, because they're draining. All right, sitting here listening to that for about, at this point, what looks like it's going to be almost 2.5, almost 3 hours. But yeah. I don't know. These episodes are interesting. It'll be interesting to see the people that they continue to have on. I don't know. I wonder if you'll eventually run out of people to have. But yeah, I don't know. I think Piers is an interesting individual, for sure. I just think that generally he, he doesn't take positions on a lot of things. He just kind of is ultimately contrarian. I feel like he's easy to hate no matter who you are. He's just struggling to stay relevant, if that makes sense. I think it would have been cool for me to be on this episode, but yet again, I think these episodes, in many ways, it's difficult to really get what you want to say in such a short amount of time. And Piers did a lot of just speaking over people. You know what I mean? Like, I think there has to be this understanding. I mean, of course, you're going to, you want to get as much in as you say, but Piers is the one who's talking there the whole time. Each person there only has a few minutes before they're voted out. And I think that since everyone is struggling to get in and they want to say their piece, people get voted out very quickly. And I think that's the problem with this. So overall, I don't know. I don't have too much to say about this. I said my piece where it was. I'll be curious to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Definitely drop those comments. I'll try to end the video pretty quick now because I want you to, click on one of these 2 videos, or I'll put one video, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more of these. I'll do my best to get these videos out in a quicker fashion so that you guys are able to watch and enjoy these videos, because I know some of you do enjoy hearing my reaction, and as much as it pains me sometimes, I also enjoy doing these reaction videos as well. So other than that, as always, please comment your thoughts down below, subscribe, follow me on my other platforms, Instagram, TikTok, all that. I'll post some short clips from this on there, I'm sure. But other than that, like I said, I'm repeating myself. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.